It took another 2 days, but finally Song Yangzhu stood at the bottom of the valley, and she was filled with joy. She knew she had found the place that led the tomb. It was only 10 meters away from the bottom of the valley. It took another 2 days, but finally Song Yangzhu stood at the bottom of the valley, and she was filled with joy. She knew she had found the place that led the tomb. It was only 10 meters away from the bottom of the valley. Song Yangzhu wanted to find a place to stay for the time being. She was planning to cultivate while digging out the ancient tomb. But in this moment, a voice sounded. Were there people talking in the depth of the snow mountain? Song Yangzhu looked behind in shock and saw 2 men carrying big bags. They had shotguns in their hands, and they were walking towards her as they spoke. 2 hunters? What were they doing there? Song Yangzhu didn't head towards the tomb. She couldn't expose it. When Song Yangzhu spotted the 2 men, they also saw her. The 2 hunters said something to each other and headed towards her with their guns. When they got close, Song Yangzhu saw that one of them was a white-skinned foreigner. He had a bulky build. The other man was Chinese. He was very short but sturdy. His face had many scars on it, which made him look very hideous. They were obviously surprised to see Song Yangzhu there. Who are you? Why are you in the depth of the Misty snow mountains? The short man asked. He was vigilant, as though one wrong word and he would fire. Who are you guys? Song Yangzhu rested easy. These men were probably really hunters. She could smell the blood in their bags. But Song Yangzhu couldn't understand why they were all the way there. As though they felt Song Yangzhu posed no threat, the short man put the gun down and said, I'm Jiang Chuanwu. This is my friend Erickson. We came here for hunting. Hunting? Song Yangzhu looked at the 2 men with confusion and suddenly said, Did you come to hunt the snow fox? She was more and more certain they had come here to hunt the snow fox. Snow fox fur was very precious, and it was said that only the Misty snow mountains had these animals. These animals were not only nationally protected, but also internationally. Jiang Chuanwu's expression didn't look good, but he still said, Are they that easy to find? We just came here to hunt some regular animals. Song Yangzhu didn't continue asking. It didn't concern her. It was good as long as they didn't come for the tomb. What are you here for? Jiang Chuanwu looked at Song Yangzhu confused. She was that pretty and young, yet she was alone in the depths of the snow mountain. It seemed eerie. I'm just hiking, but I got lost. She could no longer be bothered to talk to the 2 hunters, so she turned around and walked away. With them there, she couldn't dig the tomb. She had to wait until they left before she could. Jiang Chuanwu turned to the foreigner and said, Erickson, do you believe her? The tall white guy looked at Jiang Xuanwu and smiled. Mr. Chuanwu, the woman is really pretty. Hearing this, Jiang Xuanwu thought about it and wanted to say something, but Erickson continued, Mr. Chuanwu, we've been in this place for half a month, but we still haven't seen any snow foxes. I don't think it's worth it if we continue like this. Jiang Chuanwu immediately knew what he meant. He was hired by Erickson. If they found the fox, he would get a large sum of money. If not, he would just be a tour guide. He knew that Erickson wanted the woman, but he had his concerns. A young, beautiful woman that dared to venture the depths of this mountain. He couldn't believe that she didn't have the means to protect herself. Mr. Erickson, she's no regular woman if she can wander in the depths of this mountain. There are many capable people in China. If she has an important background, then Jiang Chuanwu said worriedly. Erickson smiled. We'd be sent to jail for poaching snow foxes. Now that she knows our purpose, if she reports us, then we would He didn't finish the sentence. Jiang Chuanwu knew what Erickson meant. He also longed for women, but he had heard about ancient martial arts, and he knew there were a lot of masters. She might be one, since she dared to venture there herself. Erickson waved a pouch and said, I know what you're worrying about, but this scent can make people weak, even lose their mind. Jiang Chuanwu was shook and cursed. That guy had such thing. If he used it on him, he would be dead meat. It seemed that he needed to be warier of him. Although he had these thoughts, Jiang Chuanwu didn't show it and smiled. That thing is not bad, but if we smelled it too, wouldn't we be also disabled? Don't worry, I have the cure for it here. Erickson took out a green capsule and gave it to Jiang Chuanwu. Seeing this, Erickson smiled and said, Mr. Chuanwu, I can let you go on that woman first. Hearing this, Jiang Chuanwu thought carefully. Was Erickson really that nice? It wasn't like his cunning nature. Thinking about this, Jiang Chuanwu became even warier. Seeing this, Erickson quickly said, Mr. Chuanwu, don't misunderstand me. I also have some conditions. I brought the scent and the cure. If you go on her first, you must give me the short sword you found. Hearing this, Jiang Chuanwu took out a short sword from his bag and said strangely, You want this short sword? He had found it by the river yesterday. He didn't understand why Erickson wanted that normal-looking sword. Yes, yes, Erickson said excitedly and even reached his hand to grab it. Jiang Chuanwu put the sword away and said casually, Mr. Erickson, we don't even have her yet. No need to rush. Oh, right, yeah. Erickson rubbed his hands. Song Yangzhu found a place to shelter from the wind and cleaned it before setting up her tent. Just when she finished setting up the tent, the two men were approaching it. Song Yangzhu immediately became vigilant. She didn't want to talk to them. Why were they here? What Song Yangzhu didn't expect was that they set their tents near hers. Song Yangzhu frowned. She decided to pack up her tent and leave. She wasn't a very feisty person, but if they followed her again, they couldn't blame her for her actions. Before she came out, the man called Jiang Chuanwu came over and stood at the door saying, Young girl, help us. There are a lot of beasts around the snow mountain. It'll be safer if we stay together. We've made roasted rabbit meat. Let's eat together. Song Yangzhu said with a cold face, No need. I don't like living with strangers. Since you guys like it here, I'll move away. Hi, I'm Erickson. Nice to meet you. Erickson approached her politely and reached out his hand. Song Yangzhu's face was cold, as though she hadn't seen his hand. Erickson took back his hand awkwardly and passed over a cigarette to Jiang Chuanwu before lighting up his own. Piss off. The two had dared smoke in front of her tent and make all the smoke go inside. Song Yangzhu couldn't endure any longer and decided to give those two a lesson. Piss off. The two had dared smoke in front of her tent and make all the smoke go inside. Song Yangzhu couldn't endure any longer and decided to give those two a lesson. Jiang Chuanwu suddenly spat the smoke onto Song Yangzhu's face and creepily muttered, Young girl, in the depths of this barren mountain, wouldn't it be good if we accompanied each other? It'll be warm. Killing intent flashed across Song Yangzhu's eyes. Just because she had never killed before didn't mean she wasn't able to. Song Yangzhu kicked out, sending Jiang Chuanwu flying tens of meters away. He couldn't crawl up from the ground for a long time. Then, Song Yangzhu kicked Erickson the same way, and he flew far away, harshly landing next to Jiang Chuanwu. As soon as she did that, she felt something wasn't right. She felt weak and extremely lustful. Song Yangzhu immediately realized that there must have been something fishy about that smoke, but she didn't even have the strength to step on the cigarette to put it out. Didn't you promise the smoke? Jiang Chuanwu didn't finish complaining, because he saw Yangzhu stumbling. Hee, this is made from authentic African red snake grass. No matter how conservative she is, she won't be able to control herself. Erickson smiled and rubbed his waist. Crawling up slowly, this woman is really frightening, though. Her kick was too powerful. Jiang Chuanwu also felt fear. If it hadn't been for the smoke, the two of them combined would have been no match for this woman. Yimo stood up. After a day of recovery, his outer wounds had disappeared, and his bones had healed. Even his spirit sense had recovered by half. His qi, however, had only recovered less than 1%. Yimo knew that that was due to his injured dantian. If he wanted to recover all of his qi, he had to heal his dantian first. But he knew that without the Lotus Life Pill, it wouldn't be easy to recover his dantian. If it wasn't for his flying sword, he would want to leave this place already. He was sure that no one else other than Xiang Mingwang and Rin Pingchuan could have survived the blast. Xiang Mingwang was even most likely dead, as he had been the one holding on to the bomb. The only one Yimo was worried about was Rin Pingchuan. If Rin Pingchuan wasn't dead, then Yimo would be if he met him again. But no matter how badly he wanted to leave, he needed his flying sword. Without it, he couldn't escape these mountains. His flying sword was also very precious. It would be far too difficult to find enough materials to make another one. Yimo looked for many hours by the river, but didn't find anything. He was lacking in qi and felt tired quickly. A white animal passed by Yimo's eyes rapidly, so fast that Yimo almost didn't notice it. Such a pretty thing. Yimo's spirit sense immediately noticed that it was a fox. He knew that these things were very rare on Earth, especially such a beautiful white one. Yimo immediately took a liking to it. He thought that since Qingxue had silver, if he gave this fox to Luoying, she would be very happy. Thinking like that, Yimo followed after the cute creature. As though sensing that Yimo was chasing it, it ran faster. If Yimo had his flying sword or his chi, it really wouldn't take long for him to catch it. But now, he was only a little stronger than a normal person. He ran for a couple of hours and didn't even realize he had entered the inner parts of the snow mountain. When Yimo was puffing heavily and close to losing his breath, he finally almost caught up to the fox. Just as Yimo was about to catch the fox, he stopped himself. He had sensed his flying sword this deep into the mountains. His flying sword clearly fell by the river. Why would it be here? No matter what, since his flying sword was here, Yimo had to go. Yimo released his spirit sense to the maximum and ran towards it. The fox saw that Yimo stopped chasing it, so it halted too and stared at Yimo's back. Song Yangzhu felt as if her body were jelly, and it didn't take her long to realize that she was in trouble. She regretted merely kicking the two away instead of killing them. Seeing Jiang Chuanwu and Erickson slowly creep over, Song Yangzhu began to worry. Her heart sunk to the bottom. She knew that if the two came to her tent, it would be over for her. Song Yangzhu wanted to force out the mist from her body, but she couldn't. Jiang Chuanwu took out the sword and dumped it over to Erickson. "This is yours. I'll be going on her first." Erickson smiled and didn't pay Jiang Chuanwu any heed. He focused on the short sword and sliced it at some rock. The rock was sliced in half like tofu. Erickson was shocked. To him, women were something he could get anywhere, but he had never encountered such a powerful sword before. Was this one of the 10 great swords of China or something? Even if he didn't get the snow fox fur, he'd earned big this time. But that Jiang Chuanwu, the idiot, actually gave it to him. Seeing Jiang Chuanwu walk over, Song Yangzhu was shaking. If you had just cooperated, things would have been great. I won't be the only one feeling pleasure here. You're not really losing out. Why are you so serious? Jiang Chuanwu put out his hand as he spoke casually. Animal, if you dare come over, I will kill you. Song Yangzhu yelled. She truly wanted to kill him, but she was completely powerless. Hearing this, Jiang Chuanwu laughed. You dare threaten me? How about I kill you after F***king you, B***T? Although Jiang Chuanwu was only threatening her now, he did have thoughts of killing her. She had been able to kick the both of them that far with one kick. He didn't dare to let her live. As Song Yangzhu was falling more and more into despair, she suddenly felt some strength return to her. She rejoiced and wanted to take out her sword, but before she could, she felt a sudden intense desire in her heart. That lust made her feel very shameless. In the meantime, Jiang Chuanwu had taken off his top and was depravedly walking up to her. Song Yangzhu's eyes were red, and her skin was shivering. She was finally able to gather up some strength to resist it for some reason. Soon you'll understand how good it is. Jiang Chuanwu grabbed her shoulder and helped her take off her clothes. Song Yangzhu bit the tip of her tongue to cling onto the little inkling of reason she had left and kicked Jiang Chuanwu in the stomach, and he flew out of the tent again. Immediately after, though, she sunk into deep desire and started ripping off her clothes. Erickson dash, just when Jiang Chuanwu wanted to reproach Erickson for the weakness of his mist poison. He saw Song Yangzhu take off her clothes in a frenzy and took back his words. From Song Yangzhu's resistance, Jiang Chuanwu knew that the mist was indeed very potent, but that Song Yangzhu's will was simply very strong as well. It seemed that after this was over, he needed to get some from Erickson. With such a fearsome poison, what woman couldn't he get? Hearing the call, Erickson said slowly, "Hurry up and do your business. That mist is very strong. If you leave her untouched for too long, she'll go crazy." Jiang Chuanwu could no longer hold himself back and took off the rest of his clothes as he charged over to the tent. Yimo happened to walk into the valley right on time to witness Jiang Chuanwu rushing into the cave. What shocked him especially was that Song Yangzhu seemed to be ripping off her clothes. Yimo couldn't help but sigh. This world was really small. Yemo immediately knew that Song Yangju had to have been drugged. He couldn't let this go, especially since Song Yangju had saved him before. Yemo let out a sneer. Great. Abusing women in the depths of a mountain. Huh? Zhang Chuanwu heard it and quickly stopped. He saw Yemo walk over, and he reacted quickly, calling out, Erickson, kill this guy, quick. Yemo saw the flying sword in Erickson's hand as he was putting it down to take out his gun. Yemo laughed at the irony and manipulated his flying sword to slit Erickson's throat in an arc. Blood splashed. A few seconds later, Erickson's headless body dropped on the ground. Blood splashed. A few seconds later, Erickson's headless body dropped on the ground. Zhang Chuanwu stared at the head rolling far away. He didn't know how that young man had killed Erickson. They were clearly so far apart. He even forgot to beg for mercy. Yemo was tired, however. He had very little chi and had chased the fox for quite a long while. Big brother, you can have that woman Zhang Chuanwu finally reacted, but before he said anything else, Yemo's flying sword pierced his neck. That day at the break of dawn, two heads rolled to each other. Yemo wanted to use a fireball to burn them both, but he really felt his chi wasn't enough. When he saw that Song Yangju was almost in a frenzy, Yemo didn't dare waste time and quickly made his way over. He went into the tent wanting to use acupuncture to force the poison out, but Song Yangju had already charged at him and put her arms around him. She started to pull Yemo's clothes. Yemo sighed, but he didn't push her away. He used a golden needle to pierce into a chakra point. As soon as he did, Yemo's expression changed. He just realized he was out of chi. How was he going to force the poison out? Song Yangju was obviously poisoned by some extremely strong aphrodisiac. She wasn't going to last much longer. Yemo was angry. Those two men were too vicious. However, he was out of chi and he couldn't cure her. Even if he did that with Song Yangju, it might not go away completely. But if he didn't do it, Song Yangju would immediately be in danger. But in the case that only a little bit of poison were left, as long as she didn't lose her mind, she could force it out herself with her yellow-level peak power. Just when Yemo was deciding on what to do, his top got torn. Yemo only had a thin shirt on him. Now that it was torn off, Song Yangju's burning body touched his. Yemo, who had never had sex before, immediately felt hot. He had many mind-calming chants, but they required chi to use. How could Yemo, who was depleted of chi, resist against this attack? Although Yemo had the power to push her away, she was in danger indeed, and his heart was already aroused by Song Yangju. He didn't want to push her away. He even pulled out the golden needle. Yemo felt guilty about Ning Qingxue and Luoying, but he could only lie and convince himself that Song Yangju had saved him before. He knew it was an excuse, but he still used it to comfort himself. Rumble when Song Yangju's hand grabbed his private area. Yemo couldn't think about anything else. He was drowned by Song Yangju's fire. He could no longer care about anything else as he grabbed the feeble Song Yangju. They were both noobs, but they didn't need anyone to teach them. They just had to follow their instinct. Despite not touching anything with his hands, Yemo felt the lustful fire. When he was enveloped by her warmth, he subconsciously made an animal-like growl. He lost himself for a brief moment. Song Yangju clumsily rode on him, and the pain briefly woke her up. It was her first time. But the pain wasn't just physical, it was also mental. She woke up, saw Yemo, and suddenly started crying. She wanted to stop herself, but she was soon engulfed by that desire again. She had forgotten everything. Yemo grabbed Song Yangju. Even if he lost his first time to that woman, he didn't want to be the passive one. He started taking the active role, and he placed her on top of the clothes in the ground. With her clumsy welcoming, he had forgotten who was under him. But lust eventually faded. When Song Yangju felt some sort of hot liquid, she opened her eyes. Yemo stopped moving and stared at Song Yangju, who stared at him back. Yemo felt his face was burning, like a little kid found doing something wrong. He didn't dare move. Song Yangju's face was numb. Her eyes were numb. She didn't move at all. When Yemo saw her face, he got anxious. He had never experienced that before. He had thought countless times of him being with Luoying and Ning Qingxue, sometimes even at the same time, but he had never thought of being with another woman, especially one that was from his enemy's family. Guillermo didn't know what to say, so the two of them just looked at each other for tens of seconds. Song Yangju's eyes got misty and tears trickled down her eyes incessantly. She pushed Guillermo away. He felt her hands were shaking very hard. Guillermo didn't know what to say to comfort her. "I did this to save you?" Song Yangju struggled to stand up and took a towel from her bag to wipe the blood on her leg. Then, she slowly put on her clothes and packed her things. She just walked outside with that big bag of hers, not even taking the tint. From beginning to the end, she didn't say anything to Guillermo, and he didn't know what to say either. After Song Yangju walked outside, Guillermo slapped his head, packed everything up, including her tint, and chased her. Although he didn't love Song Yangju and she was her enemy, that woman was still his first one. Guillermo was an emotional person and he couldn't just do nothing about it. "Don't come over." Song Yangju looked back at Guillermo with madness in her eyes. Her voice was a little cracked. Guillermo believed that if he went to her, she might even try to kill him at all costs. Despite having his flying sword, he only had a bit of chi, hence Song Yangju might be able to kill him. Guillermo sighed and threw her tent on the ground. "This is yours." Song Yangju picked it up silently. The madness in her eyes had become dejection. Then, she slowly turned away and left. The moon appeared and its moonlight was reflected on the snow mountain, lighting up the area with a smooth, pale light. Song Yangju's figure disappeared from Guillermo's sight, but he still stood in the same place without moving for a long time. He didn't know how to feel. Was he wrong? Had he become soft? Guillermo frowned. In the cultivation realm, power was everything and so was there. If he hadn't had power, he would have been killed long ago. The Song family wanted him dead, so why couldn't he kill them? How could he doubt his heart because of something like this? Cultivation was to pursue the great Tao that went against the heavens. If he couldn't even control his heart, how could he reach the pinnacle of power? Thinking about this, Guillermo opened up. Even the confusion towards Song Yangju disappeared. He stood there and howled. He felt his wounds recovering a little. He was sure that once he fully recovered, his state would increase a step too. Song Yangju heard it and paused for a moment. After Guillermo's howl finished, she kept going. A white fox was hiding in a corner of the valley and, when she heard Guillermo's howl, she carefully peeked out and stared at Guillermo. Guillermo turned back and saw that fox again, which was a bit strange in his opinion. It had managed to not be caught by him during the day, so why did it come back? Was it not afraid of being caught by him? Guillermo turned back and saw that fox again, which was a bit strange in his opinion. It had managed to not be caught by him during the day, so why did it come back? Was it not afraid of being caught by him? The small fox saw that Guillermo had noticed it and turned to run. Guillermo smiled and didn't bother chasing the fox, instead walking into the remaining tent to recover. He had had some enlightenment just then, so it would be good to use the opportunity to cultivate. Meanwhile, Song Yangju had returned to the tomb she had been planning on digging through during the day. She didn't know what she should do now. Should she keep digging the tomb to find a way to get stronger and kill Guillermo? Or should she not kill him? She knew that Guillermo had saved her, but she couldn't bear being saved by an enemy again and again, even losing her virginity to him. Song Yangju's heart was in turmoil. If she were to give up on getting revenge from Guillermo, she would lose all direction in life. If her master was still the same to her as before, perhaps she could go back and cultivate, but after her master had distanced himself from her, her only motivation had been revenge. Yet now, that motivation had been blurred. Song Yangju didn't continue cultivating, nor did she eat the black rising pill. She didn't want to think about Guillermo and would rather nothing had happened. She could only bury the memories in the depth of her heart, never to remember them again. She even hoped that she would never have to see Guillermo again. Song Yangju sat by the tomb for a long time before starting to dig. In the end, she realized that she didn't know what to do nor where to go other than doing what she had planned at the tomb site anyway. As though not knowing fatigue, she dug for 2 hours straight before eventually stopping because she stumbled upon a random passage. Someone must have dug a passage here, but due to a collapse, the entrance had been blocked. Song Yangju crawled into the tunnel with great care. After all, she had never raided a tomb before, nor did she know anything about checking oxygen and stuff. Luckily, she did know that ancient tombs had some danger to them. She had experienced some of that danger before, so she had brought a long sword with her. The tomb was dim and seemed to stretch on forever. Song Yangzhu wore a mining torch on her head, but with the small amount of light it provided, the bleak tunnel seemed kind of eerie. Song Yangzhu felt goosebumps. This was clearly a tunnel deep inside the mountains, yet she could feel wind. The bleak wind made her shiver. She suddenly stopped and thought, what am I still doing here? Was she really going to get stronger to kill Yimo? Could she truly do it when she saw him? Song Yangzhu didn't dare think about it anymore. She felt that after the events of last night, Yimo's position in her heart had changed. She tried to avoid him, but she couldn't help feeling her killing intent towards him seemingly decline. She should just leave and find some place to live the rest of her life. She didn't want to see him ever again, nor anyone else she knew. But before Song Yangzhu could turn around and depart, she felt a sudden coldness from behind her and swung her sword back subconsciously. There was an almost indistinguishable shriek, and Song Yangzhu was scared into sweat. She was sure that her long sword had cut something. There was a huge rumble, and Song Yangzhu sensed the tunnel behind her collapse. Song Yangzhu was shook and quickly took out a shovel to dig. But before she could start, she felt that coldness behind her back again. Song Yangzhu dropped the shovel and slashed backwards once more. The frigid feeling disappeared, but Song Yangzhu didn't dare to start digging again. She felt as though that thing would try to scratch her as soon as she turned around, and this was a danger she could see nor sense. Song Yangzhu gazed into the tunnel and saw nothing special. She carefully picked up her shovel again, but before she could apply force, it actually broke. Song Yangzhu looked dumbly at this very high-quality shovel. She didn't know why it could possibly break. Were there really ghosts? Even though she was at the peak of the yellow level, Song Yangzhu still felt scared. She thought of the ghost she saw back at Broken Top Mountain. After standing still for a long while, Song Yangzhu felt a little sleepy. She bit the tip of her tongue and remembered that this place had to be lacking in oxygen since the tunnel collapsed. Was she going to die here? Why should she be afraid of death? Song Yangzhu thought, what would be the point to living anyway? Suddenly, she didn't want to dig anymore, and she brought her long sword along as she walked deeper into the tunnel. It was as though the thing was scared of Song Yangzhu's sword, because Song Yangzhu walked for a long while without being attacked. As she walked along the path, Song Yangzhu saw a faint harmonious light emanate from somewhere. Had she walked out already? Song Yangzhu sped up. Even if she was going to die, she didn't want to die in a dark tomb like this. Seeing the source of the light, Song Yangzhu was stunned. From her birth till now, she had only ever heard of luminous pearls and fairy tales, yet now, she was actually seeing 8 of them. They were all embedded in the stone door, giving the tomb a royal feeling to it. 2 sets of bones laid together in front of the door, along with some scattered arrows. Song Yangzhu dazedly walked to the door and pushed it open. When Yimo woke up, it was already daylight. His chi had recovered a bit more, and although he couldn't leave on his flying sword yet, he would be able to in a few days at this rate. He shot out a few fireballs and burned the tents and the bodies before walking out of this silent valley. Although he didn't know what Song Yangzhu was doing here, since she'd left already, he didn't need to think about it. Even though Yimo was also embarrassed at the incident, he didn't feel regret. If he hadn't done what he did, Song Yangzhu might have gone mad. And since she chose to leave, so be it. Seeing how he was already in the Mai Snow Mountains anyway, Yimo thought for a bit and decided to go check where the tomb the Fu brothers had mentioned was at. When he took out the map, he was dazed. Were there such coincidences in the world? He was standing precisely on top of the tomb. If it were somewhere else, he would go after getting fully healed. But now that it was right under him, it would be a waste if he didn't check it out. Yimo walked along the foot of the mountains for a bit and stopped when he saw a tunnel, which seemed rather freshly made. Was it this type of coincidence again? He just found the place, and someone had gone in already? Wait dash, Yimo thought of Song Yangzhu. She was the only who had been nearby yesterday. What was she doing here? Yimo scanned his spirit sense in, and his face changed when he noticed the state of the tomb. The newly dug tunnel had collapsed. If Song Yangzhu was in there, wouldn't she be buried alive? Although Yimo's chi had only recovered a bit, He dug much faster than Song Yangju. In less than an hour, he made it into the tunnel. Yimo had heard that this tomb seemed to have some ghost that scratches backs. But in front of Yimo, it was just a measly little ghost. It didn't dare near even those who didn't cultivate yet had strong yin qi, much less proper cultivators. Yimo scanned his spirit sense in the tunnel and immediately saw a ghost in a corner. If he went in there alone, he wouldn't care about a ghost that wasn't going to attack him. But Song Yangju had gone in not long ago. The ghost might have attacked her. Yimo scanned his spirit sense in the tunnel and immediately saw a ghost in a corner. If he went in there alone, he wouldn't care about a ghost that wasn't going to attack him. But Song Yangju had gone in not long ago. The ghost might have attacked her. With these thoughts, Yimo threw a fireball casually. The ghost immediately vanished and the tunnel seemed less cold. Yimo walked through the cave very fast. After a while, he saw a stone door with luminous pearls on it. There were 2 bodies next to it. Something wasn't right. Yimo remembered that the Fu brothers had said there were 9 pearls, but he could only find 8 there. Also, at the time they had said that other than the 2 bodies, they also had someone killed with arrows. How come he didn't see that body? Yimo didn't mind that. He cared about where Song Yangju had gone. How come he couldn't see her inside the tunnel? Yimo knew that the stone door could shoot arrows, so he threw a rock at it, but no arrows were shot. Had all the arrows been used up? Regardless, Yimo took out the 8 luminous pearls. They were worth a fortune. He wasn't going to leave them for someone else. After that, Yimo approached the stone door. He was going to break it apart with his flying sword, but when he pushed the door lightly, it actually opened up itself. Yimo walked inside and found that he was standing on a platform with a circumference of 1 meter. Outside the platform there was a deep abyss. Luckily, there was a stairway that led downstairs in the center of the platform. Just when Yimo decided to go down, the stone door behind him closed. Yimo turned around and tried pushing the door. Nothing happened, as though the stone door had been locked. Yimo was angry. He had gotten tricked to go inside, and the door just closed on him. Without thinking, Yimo took out his flying sword and tried to hack the door off, but his flying sword only got to cut 15 centimeters. He then realized that it wasn't a stone door, but a 30 cm thick steel board. The steel board was covered in 15 centimeters of thick granite on both sides. If it was someone else, no one would be able to dig through the door in their lifetime. But it was Yimo. He used his flying sword and dug out a big hole in the door. Looking at it, Yimo felt satisfied. Probably, not even the guy who designed the door could have predicted that someone could dig out such a big hole in such a short time. Then, Yimo walked down the stairs and kept his spirit sense out. After Yimo had walked 100 meters or so, he saw Song Yangju. Song Yangju was at the bottom of the valley, in the middle of an underground river. Her situation didn't look good. Her face was pale, and she stood on a rock in the middle of the river. She waved her sword in all directions, but there was nothing around her. Yimo charged down the stairs without hesitation and threw a wooden board into the river. Then, he stood on it and went towards Song Yangju. But as soon as he did, suddenly countless strange black heads appeared around the board. These heads were trying to bite the wooden board. Some even tried to bite Yimo's feet. There was a foul stench coming out of their huge mouths with sharp, crooked teeth. Yimo was shocked. He had never seen such disgusting fish. They had sharp teeth and crooked scales. Moreover, there was a strange liquid between the scales that made them look very disgusting and ugly. Yimo quickly took out his long sword and hacked them. Foul, stanching blood was splashed into the river, and the dead ones were soon devoured by the surrounding fish. Despite so, more and more of them kept appearing. The wooden board underneath him disappeared. Hence Yimo quickly jumped and landed on the rock Song Yangju was at. Even if those fish couldn't do anything to him, he didn't want to touch them, but especially not since they didn't look herbivorous. If he fell in the river, he would die for sure. Song Yangju had already lost the bag, and she has just kept hacking with her sword randomly, without noticing in any way that Yimo was next to her. She even stabbed him. Yimo seized her, and he immediately felt a bleak chi inside her body. It was because she had encountered the ghost. So after Yimo eradicated the bleak chi, Song Yangju calmed down. Although she had lost her torch, Yemo's familiar smell made her stop resisting. She sunk into silence. She didn't know how Yemo had gotten there as well. Before Yemo could talk, even more and more of those fish came to them, as though they were attracted by the smell of blood. Yemo took out one of the luminous pearl, and Song Yangzhu at once managed to see her surroundings. She got so scared that she screamed. When she encountered ghosts or when Yemo took her virginity, she didn't scream. But when she saw those ugly fish, she couldn't resist the fear in her heart and screamed. The rock was too small and the water seemed to be rising, and neither Yemo nor Song Yangzhu wanted to fall in the river. Yemo would rather encounter 1,000 ghosts than face the fish. But Yemo couldn't use his flying sword there. He needed to think of a way to escape. Yemo sliced with his sword tins of fish that were instantly killed. Before more fish could charge at them again, Yemo gave a luminous pearl to Song Yangzhu and said, "I'll send you up first in a bit. As soon as you get out, leave immediately." "Then you would dash," Song Yangzhu murmured subconsciously. "You go first, I'll come up soon." Then, Yemo grabbed Song Yangzhu and threw her onto the stairs perfectly. Yemo kept killing the fish. He didn't have a better way to leave the river. He still had the wooden board, but there were countless more fish than before. Song Yangzhu stood on the stairs and looked dazedly at Yemo fighting on the river. His image got blurred under the dim light. Just when Yemo was trying to figure out how to get out of there, he realized something scarier. The fish could only stretch out their heads before, but now, after eating their own kind, they had started to grow legs and could slowly crawl onto the rock. Yemo felt goosebumps as he wondered whether he should use his flying sword. If his chi wasn't enough, he would fall into the river and he would be finished. The fish reminded him of the insects in the desert. They had also become stronger after eating their own kind. What were they? "What are you still standing there for?" Yemo saw that Song Yangzhu was dumbfounded on the stairway, and he couldn't help but yelling that. What was she doing? "You dash." Song Yangzhu also got angry, but then she saw the fish slowly crawling up and felt extremely disgusted. She would rather die than see those fish again. Song Yangzhu turned away and left. When she reached the door, she saw the huge hole. She realized that it must have been made by Yemo, and she turned back to look at him. Rumble, dirt started to fall, and the stone door also seemed to be falling apart. If she stayed there a bit longer, she would be covered in earth. Song Yangzhu subconsciously ran forward as rocks and earth started to fall from everywhere. When she got outside, there was a larger rumble. The tomb was collapsing. The entire snow mountain seemed to be shaking. When Song Yangzhu got to a safe distance, she rejoiced. If she had been a little slower, she would have been buried alive. But then moments later, she was dazed. Where was Yemo? Yemo had saved her, but he hadn't made it out himself. Song Yangzhu's mind went blank. Yemo hadn't come out after saving her. Song Yangzhu could already imagine Yemo being crushed by the mountain, surrounded by those horrendous fish in the river. Yemo hadn't come out after saving her. Song Yangzhu could already imagine Yemo being crushed by the mountain, surrounded by those horrendous fish in the river. She should be happy about Yemo's misfortune, but she wasn't at all. She stood at the bottom of the mountain, looking at the still raging rock slides, and felt faintly melancholic. She didn't want to cry for Yemo, but she couldn't hold back her tears. Why was she crying for her enemy? Why? She couldn't understand. It was as if she could still feel Yemo's warmth on her body. Holding the luminous pearl in her hand, she remembered how they were still together as one last night. Yet today, she was here all by herself. Revenge had been taken, but she couldn't pay back the debt she owed. Although Yemo was her enemy, he had also become her man. Song Yangzhu thought about her man and fell into a daze. She sat there for an entire day, unendingly crying. Was she crying for having taken revenge, or for the man that died? Only she could know. It wasn't until the third day when she finally left. The hunger she felt wasn't even the most torturous pain for her. It was the lack of direction and meaning she felt. But the past is in the past. It's best to never think of it again. Song Yangzhu murmured. From today onwards, Song Yangzhu doesn't exist. I've gotten revenge for the Song family and now, I'm leaving. Like that, Her figure gradually disappeared from the outskirts of the Mai Snow Mountains. With that rumbling sound, Emo knew things weren't looking too good. He knew that if he didn't leave now, he would never be leaving. Emo grabbed onto some wooden board and wanted to throw it to serve as a foothold, but he saw that the stairway had been covered by rocks and earth. Emo instinctively threw the board down in the opposite direction. As expected, as soon as he stood on the board, the fish ate it all. But Emo only needed to gain some momentum from the board as he jumped and landed on the opposite wall. He used his flying sword to pierce into the wall and used it to stabilize his body. As rocks and earth kept falling, many fell on top of Emo. There were some large boulders that smashed into the river, with the water even splashing as high as Emo. Emo quickly climbed some distance and dug a hole in the wall. At any other moment, he wouldn't want to use his flying sword to dig into stone walls, but now he had no other choice. Just when Emo managed to dig a hole to store himself in, larger rocks started falling. If he had been just a little slower, then no matter how powerful he was, these rocks would have smashed him down. There was another rumbling noise as more and more rocks fell. Emo's heart sunk. He knew something special must have happened. The entire mountain was shaking. He suspected that the wall he was in might fall too. Emo realized that he wouldn't be able to save himself like this, so he quickly started digging into the wall again. Another hour later, the rumbling weakened, but it was definitely still there. Emo estimated that he had to be somewhere in the middle of the mountain. He really was unlucky. He didn't know if Song Yangju got out either. Emo sighed. It would be for the best if he never saw her again, but he also felt deep down in his heart that she was his woman. He didn't want her to have anything with other men. Was I too domineering? Emo asked himself, but he immediately patted his head. His life mattered more right now. Why was he thinking about these useless things? The sound on the outside got much smaller, and just when Emo wanted to halt, he found that he'd dug through the stone wall already. What appeared before him was a huge valley. The surroundings consisted of stone walls all over, except for a small cave formation down below. This was such a strange place. Emo crawled down carefully and went around for a bit. He saw those disgusting fish occasionally in the river again, but there weren't that many. What was this place? Emo looked around and found a place to continue digging. He knew that if he didn't dig through this place, he wouldn't be able to get out. Emo stopped using his flying sword to dig. Although it wouldn't get broken by this much, Emo didn't want to risk it. This was his only magic artifact. It was half his life. He could only rely on the flying sword to get out on the other side. Luckily, he had a lot of weapons in his storage ring. While Emo continued digging, he cultivated and recovered his strength. This had become a habit for Emo. It was lucky that he had food and water in his ring too. A week later, Emo had fully recovered, and his power had as expected reached a higher level, the middle stage of stage 4. He was one step away from tertiary stage. In his joy, Emo dug faster. Another day later, he had dug into a new valley. However, at this valley, he could see the sky. Emo rejoiced. He could fly out of here on his flying sword now. Emo stood at the cliff and sighed. He could finally say he had survived. Although he didn't get the crystals, he didn't lose his life either, and his power had even increased. But before Emo got on his flying sword, he dazedly looked downwards. What he saw below was a mess. There were ruins and broken bodies all over the place. Emo couldn't be more familiar with the place. This was the gourd cave he had escaped from. He had actually dug all the way here. He sent his spirit sense down and scanned the place full of bodies. He could even see Xiang Mingwang's head. Emo rejoiced. That bomb was really strong. The entire gourd cave had been annihilated by it. But Emo had to pull back his excitement as he didn't see Rin Pingchuan. This meant that Rin Pingchuan had left. Emo felt some worry. Rin Pingchuan was his biggest enemy. He would have even preferred it if only one person had died as long as that person were Rin Pingchuan. But Rin Pingchuan couldn't fly, so how did he leave? Upon further thought, Rin Pingchuan couldn't fly, but it wouldn't be hard for a great heaven master to leave the bottom of the valley. Emo landed on the square and carefully scanned with his spirit sense. He was sure that Rin Pingchuan's body was nowhere to be found, but Emo didn't find a single living being either. This was impossible. Although most of the sect members were at the square, there were some that hadn't come out too. Where did all of them go? Guillermo walked into the ancient main hall and didn't see a single person. He was getting more and more suspicious that there had to be another exit somewhere. At the center of the hall stood a 2-meter-tall stage with an ordinary black chair on it. Behind it was a dragon-inscribed veil. Behind the stage were 6 huge pillars, each with the same strange animal on them. Guillermo inspected the animal and quickly recognized it to be the ugly fish he saw in the river. Why was this creature carved here? Guillermo couldn't understand. Did the gourd cave keep them? What did they represent? Guillermo scanned the area using his spirit sense and found a stone hole. It seemed a little strange, so Guillermo walked towards it. Suddenly, he stopped his footsteps and felt the urge to run. "You're here," an extremely old voice sounded. Guillermo immediately got goosebumps all over his body. It was Run Pinkchuan. This old guy didn't die and was waiting for him here? How did he know he would come? Guillermo had kept his spirit sense out, yet still only found Rin Pinkchuan from 30 meters away. How had Rin Pinkchuan done that? "Since you're here already, come in." Rin Pinkchuan's voice was as old and slow as before. "Since you're here already, come in." Rin Pinkchuan's voice was as old and slow as before. Guillermo tightly held on to his flying sword and carefully scanned Rin Pinkchuan with his spirit sense. If he felt anything was wrong, he would immediately leave. He couldn't put himself within Rin Pinkchuan's attack range. Also, Guillermo had the feeling that Rin Pinkchuan seemed capable of detecting his spirit sense. This old man was too scary. Soon after, though, he rested easy. No wonder Rin Pinkchuan hadn't run out. His legs were blown off, and the area where they were supposed to be was covered by cloth. Guillermo felt relaxed. No matter how strong Rin Pinkchuan was, he couldn't do anything to him without his legs, so Guillermo walked in slowly. "Your spiritual energy is very strange. I feel that even though you haven't come in yet, your spiritual energy can sense my actions and see everything about me. Tell me, how do you do that?" Rin Pinkchuan sat on a stone chair. He didn't seem younger thanks to reaching great heaven, but actually seemed to have gotten older instead. His tone was very bland, and he didn't seem angry that Guillermo had blown his legs off. Guillermo sneered, "I have such great enmity with your sect. Why should I tell you? Are you dreaming, or are you an idiot?" There was a sliver of anger on Rin Pinkchuan's face, but he soon calmed down. He then said plainly again, "You're cultivating something very amazing. I've never seen an ancient martial artist able to fly on a sword. You're the first and only one I know who can." "That doesn't concern you," Guillermo replied bluntly. His spirit sense was on high alert. This old man wasn't as calm and easygoing as he appeared. "You can sense I'm injured and that my legs are broken?" Rin Pinkchuan frowned. If Guillermo knew his legs were broken, things weren't going to be easy. Guillermo said plainly, "Since I came inside, I'm of course not afraid of you. Regardless of whether your legs are broken, there is just as great an enmity between us. Stop wasting time and tell me what you want to tell me." Rin Pinkchuan wasn't angry this time as he continued, "Young man, you're called Guillermo, right? Do you believe that if that bomb had exploded 3 seconds later, I wouldn't have gotten injured? I had just reached great heaven and didn't even have the time to recover my chi when that bomb exploded. You can call yourself lucky this time, but you won't always have such fortune." Guillermo sneered, "It's my business if my luck lasts or not. I was just passing by here, so if there's nothing else, I'll be going." Of course Guillermo didn't want to leave just like that. Rin Pinkchuan's legs were broken, and he seemed to be injured. This was the best opportunity to kill him. Guillermo really wanted to kill Rin Pinkchuan right away. He was at the Great Heaven stage, sure, but his legs were broken. He couldn't pose much of a threat to Guillermo. Not to mention, Guillermo had also powered up, so he was much more confident of his odds this time. "Do you think I can't kill you with my legs broken?" Rin Pinkchuan asked slowly. Before Guillermo could reply, he continued calmly, "Leave behind your heritage, and I promise I won't touch you. I will even give you great wealth. However, if you refuse, then see for yourself if this broken-legged Great Heaven Master can kill you or not." Rin Pinkchuan then followed up, "You might be able to escape, but after you do, I will go to Flowing Snake and start a carnage. I don't mind turning all of your friends and family into feed for the water wolves. Yimo had already wanted Rinpingchuan dead, but now, he wanted it even more. Yimo took 2 steps back and locked onto Rinpingchuan with his spirit sense. He knew he didn't have a way to sneak attack him and could only clash with the man-Heaton. But suddenly, he noticed that behind Rinpingchuan was a metal lid that covered a well to the underground river and the strange fish. Yimo felt disgusted. So those strange fish are kept by you? Rinpingchuan laughed. Strange fish? After you find out how useful they are, you won't call them mere strange fish anymore. If you agree to my demand, I'm willing to take you in as my disciple, and I promise you will be able to reach great heaven within 1 year. But my guess was right. Your spiritual energy can indeed see what's behind me. Rinpingchuan's eyes were glowing from excitement just thinking about attaining that magical cultivation method. Yimo didn't speak yet, and just kept his eyes focused on Rinpingchuan. He knew Rinpingchuan still had more to say. Body-devouring water wolves, they aren't fish. Their blood contains essence chi of the flesh. A cultivator who drinks their blood can use their inner chi more efficiently and get stronger faster. There are no side effects, Rinpingchuan informed. Yimo almost puked after hearing that. Even if he had to stay at the chi-gathering stage 1 forever, he would never drink the blood of those disgusting animals. Keeping hundreds of thousands of these water wolves, no wonder you were able to reach great heaven, Yimo jeered. As though not seeing Yimo's derision, Rinpingchuan continued, do you think just any water wolf's blood is useful? It has to come from an adult water wolf. To qualify as one, it needs to grow 4 legs and 4 claws. You must have encountered them yesterday, right? Yimo was angry. This old thing knew about it, so that explosion had to have been related to him. Thinking about this, Yimo sneered. So that explosion a few days ago was your work? You also knew about that ancient tomb? Ancient tomb? Rinpingchuan shook his head. I don't know about some ancient tomb, but the underground river water wolves are all kept by my sect. I caused the explosion indeed, because no one can spill the secret of the water wolves. Even if it meant losing a lot of them, I need to kill the person who knows about it at all costs. Yimo suddenly realized that if they could just casually be used to get stronger, then wouldn't things be too easy? With that many water wolves, each sect member could eat 1 or 2 a day. As though knowing what Yimo was thinking, Rinpingchuan said, do you think you can just let them kill each other and they'll automatically grow 4 legs? I can only say you're naive if you think like that. Although killing each other can make them grow their 2 front legs fast, they could never grow their 2 rear legs with only that. They need to eat living people to grow properly. So you dumped the remaining Gourd Cave sect members into the water to feed those monsters? Yimo asked subconsciously. Rinpingchuan confirmed without hesitation. That's right. You blew apart the whole Gourd Cave, and without living humans, they would starve to death, so I could only feed my sect members to them. This was their contribution to their sect. Yimo breathed out slowly and sneered. You old piece of *T, you're really shameless. Eat my sword. Then, Yimo swung at Rinpingchuan with immense killing intent. This time, Yimo only used 80% of his chi to confuse Rinpingchuan into thinking that he was using his full power. Rumble Rinpingchuan punched out, and Yimo felt his sword chi get shattered as he was smashed back by Rinpingchuan's chi this time. However, Yimo was doing it on purpose. He flew out of the cave using that force, since it wasn't good for him to fight Rinpingchuan in a small place anyway, especially when taking into account how Rinpingchuan's legs were broken. When Yimo landed, he felt that Rinpingchuan's chi had gotten much stronger than it was a few days ago, but it was lacking in quantity. Rinpingchuan was heavily injured indeed. Yimo was shocked. This old guy was this heavily injured yet still so strong. If he were fully recovered, Yimo would have nowhere to run. Was a true Great Heaven Master really that scary? Chapter 502. A centimeter faster than you? Chapter 502. A centimeter faster than you. As Rinpingchuan watched Yimo jump out of the cave, he was angry. He didn't expect Yimo to not care about what he was talking about and attack him. You don't want to reach Great Heaven? Rinpingchuan tried to suppress his anger, but it was still obvious that he was furious. Yemo flicked his flying sword and said coldly, "Great heaven? I've seen it before already. Nothing much. There's a great heaven in Beijing too, so I can always ask him about it. Why stay here in this terrible place? This is just too disgusting." Ren Pingxuan frowned. "There's no way. The essence qi of the world is very low on the outside. There's no way to reach a high stage in inner qi cultivation out there. How can there be a great heaven cultivator? Unless he has water wolves too, but only the snow mountain water is capable of keeping water wolves alive." Ren Pingxuan didn't mention that even if you had water wolves, without understanding the laws of the great heaven, you can't reach great heaven either. He had gone into solitary cultivation for 18 years, yet wasn't able to reach great heaven. He was only finally enlightened on the great heaven laws when he experienced Yemo's flying sword. Of course, he wasn't going to tell Yemo that. There's someone called Tanjiao who reached great heaven. Although he isn't as strong as you, but he's also a master. Yemo didn't say that he fought with Tanjiao. He really wanted to know why there was such a huge difference. Ren Pingxuan sneered, "Insolence, that's called great heaven too? If I'm not wrong, that Tanjiao is at most the same as Xiang Mingwang after reaching great heaven. He probably wasn't even able to increase his longevity. Once you reach great heaven, your life increases by 60 years. If I hadn't been injured by the bomb, I would look much younger now." Before Yemo asked anything, Ren Pingxuan continued, "There are many ways to reach great heaven. One is to keep up cultivation until you open up the Ren and do meridians. I tried that for 18 years with the help of the water wolves, yet I wasn't successful. The second way is to, when your qi reaches its peak, find an opportunity to gain sudden enlightenment as though only then realizing that he was revealing his secret." Ren Pingxuan suddenly halted his sentence and said instead, "Without the help of the water wolves, there's no way to reach your qi's peak." That Tanjiao might have used an incomplete method of reaching a type of fake great heaven, pseudo-great heaven. Pseudo-great heaven is also a type of great heaven and, once stabilized, it is indeed far stronger than the peak of earth level. Seeing that Yemo was still listening, Ren Pingxuan slowly reached his hand into the cloth. Yemo didn't seem to mind, so he continued, "The main mark of being great heaven isn't having opened the Ren and Du meridians, but having formed a sea of qi. Pseudo-great heaven cultivators can't form a sea of qi. They can only store their qi in the Ren and Du meridians. Thus, fake great heaven martial artists aren't that much different from earth-level ones. Suddenly, Ren Pingxuan pressed some device, and the place Yemo stood on suddenly collapsed. At the same time, Ren Pingxuan pushed himself off from his chair and flew up palming towards Yemo's head. The strong qi slapped above Yemo's head, and there was a clank, the sound of a metal cage closing. Ren Pingxuan was sure that Yemo wouldn't be able to escape from that. As long as he kept Yemo in a cage, Yemo wouldn't be able to escape. He was sure that Yemo would tell him everything after he tortured him. Ren Pingxuan felt something was wrong though, but before he could react, a fierce killing intent pierced towards his ribs. Ren Pingxuan cursed. He didn't have time to think about how Yemo had escaped and managed to ambush him. He quickly flipped in the air, wanting to dodge the attack. But since Yemo attacked, he wasn't going to let Ren Pingxuan dodge. This was his only chance. Ren Pingxuan had no way of gaining momentum in the air while also being heavily injured, but when Ren Pingxuan landed, he would be at the disadvantage. Rumble even in the air. Ren Pingxuan's fist force still shattered Yemo's sword qi, making it so that it could only lightly slash his ribs. This was what Yemo expected. He only used 80% of his qi in the two previous strikes for this last coming attack. He never expected to be able to kill Ren Pingxuan in the air from the onset. Yemo focused 100% of his qi the final time and shot out a searing white swordlight from his flying sword with infinite killing intent at Ren Pingxuan. Yemo knew this was his do-or-die moment. If Ren Pingxuan had any backup measures, he would be dead today. He was betting on Ren Pingxuan having no means left. Ren Pingxuan was furious. He knew that Yemo wanted to kill him before he could land, but Yemo underestimated him too much. He was still a great heaven master. Even if he couldn't get momentum in the air and was heavily injured, he wasn't someone an average martial artist like Yemo could face. Ren Pingxuan punched as fast as he could at the sword light. He saved some of his power, which he would use to counterattack when he landed to give Emo the lethal blow. He believed that Emo's 2 attacks must have used up all his power. But this time, the sword clashed with Ren Pingchuan's fist and sliced off his arm as it cut a 5 centimeters deep gash into Ren Pingchuan's waist. Not good. Ren Pingchuan's face changed. As he landed, he punched out again. Emo was sent flying, but Ren Pingchuan was also forced to sit down on the ground with a pale face. Emo's dantian was churning, and he immediately spat blood but felt relieved nonetheless. Although he was injured again, his plan had been fulfilled to perfection. Such a sneaky brat. You actually conserved strength. Last time you were almost killed, but you still didn't use 100% of your power. Was all that just for today? Ren Pingchuan didn't bother stopping his bleeding. He knew that even if he did, he had lost completely today. He just didn't expect Emo to be this scheming. Emo sneered and didn't say that he had simply gotten stronger. He just stared coldly at Ren Pingchuan with his flying sword at the ready. Thinking about Ren Pingchuan's power, Emo was still shocked. If it wasn't for Ren Pingchuan trying to sneak attack him, putting himself in the air, he might not have won the battle today. Furthermore, if he hadn't powered up a little, he wouldn't have won either. Ren Pingchuan was very unsatisfied. He had only reached great heaven for a few days, yet he lost his legs and was going to lose his life to this young man. If he knew that Emo was hiding his power, even if he got injured, he wouldn't have lost his hand and gotten this wounded. Ren Pingchuan spat blood and stared at Emo before saying, "How did you know that I was going to ambush you? If you won't tell me this, I won't be satisfied in my death." Emo moved far away from Ren Pingchuan. Although he wasn't injured heavily, if this guy tried to put out a last attack, he would be the one to suffer. He only needed to waste time with this old man now and throw a fireball or wind blade every now and then. Hearing this, Emo smiled. "You know I have a spirit sensing ability, but you're still this careless. I was wondering about what the gray button did on your chair from the beginning. Oh, and I have a small magic art called wind control. Precisely when your hand was 1 centimeter from that button, I started using it." Seeing Ren Pingchuan's face turn uglier, Emo was getting happy. He wiped the blood from his mouth and smiled. "I was 1 centimeter faster than you during your attempted ambush. I was waiting for you to press that button. Good thing you were a good boy and pressed that button, successfully ambushing my afterimage." Ren Pingchuan spat out more blood. Emo smiled even brighter. "Sect Leader Ren, you can die with peace of mind. I will make sure no such thing as the Gourd Cave exists among the hidden sects any longer. Don't worry about that. By the way, eat a fireball." Then, Ren Pingchuan saw a fireball charge over at him. He was more shocked. There was such an art in the world? His eyes were full of disbelief as he stared at the fireball piercing his chest. Chapter 503. A Place That Belongs to Him. Chapter 503. A Place That Belongs to Him. Emo looked at the mere ashes Ren Pingchuan had been turned into and stood there being dazed for a while. That fireball was just meant as a warning, and he was sure that if Ren Pingchuan had wanted to dodge it, it wouldn't have hit. Pity. He still had some questions to ask him, where the spirit well was. But now, he couldn't find out the easy way. Emo searched around the Gourd Cave, and only found some stone rooms and prisons. He didn't find the entrance to the spirit well. What a pity. If those 4 magical crystals were spirit stones, perhaps he could have used them to reach stage 5. Perhaps the spirit well wasn't here in the first place. Emo left the Gourd Cave on his flying sword in disappointment. From then on, there would be no more Gourd Cave. As for the spirit well, he would go ask Feng Wu. Perhaps he was now the only one who knew its whereabouts. When Emo came back to the entrance to the ancient tomb, he saw that everything had collapsed and that Song Yangzhu was also gone. She had probably left. He suddenly thought of that small fox. If he saw it now, he would be able to capture it easily. This past couple of days, Emo had gone through too much. He wondered how Qingxue and company were. Thinking about them, Emo no longer had the mood to stay and shot into the clouds on his sword. Although he hadn't left Flowing Snake for long, when Emo came back, he felt the change. There were construction teams everywhere. Xiaohua was bringing people around on patrol. There were no longer those forced businesses on the streets. Yimo nodded. This was the flowing snake he wanted to see. When the land truly became his, perhaps he could build a city. Yimo knew that it was impossible to cultivate to the point where he could ascend to the immortal realm here. Since that was the case, he might as well find a place to live with his loved ones for the rest of his life. He didn't know if Qingxue came back already, but Yimo felt very uneasy. He felt guilty towards her. He knew that Qingxue had wanted to properly consummate their marriage, yet he went and had that with someone irrelevant. Ning Qingxue sat in her office, looking at the plans for construction, when she suddenly stood up. She had the feeling that Yimo had returned, a feeling that was inexplicable. Ife, I'm going out for a bit. Ning Qingxue went downstairs and onto the streets. Yimo suddenly stopped as he saw Ning Qingxue run towards him from afar, and suddenly felt a lot more peaceful. This was his family. Yimo. Ning Qingxue saw that her feeling was right. Yimo was really back. She excitedly ran into Yimo's arms. Yimo hugged Ning Qingxue and saw the merchants around him laugh. Ning Qingxue, who had always been very reserved, ran into his arms in the middle of the street. She must have really missed him a lot. You're back? Ning Qingxue woke up from her reverie as she realized they were in the middle of the street and struggled out of Yimo's embrace. Her tone was very soft. I'm back. Yimo grabbed her hand and felt at ease. This was what he wanted. Brother Yi is back. Xiaohua was like a trumpet and immediately ran over with the patrol team. Yimo and Ning Qingxue didn't have any time for intimacy after that. Su Yuehua, Yu Miaodan, Zhang Jiayan, Su Ping, Hu, and Yi Ling all came over. Yimo felt warm. This was his home. He had decided that no matter what happened, he wouldn't let anyone come to Flowing Snake to hurt those around him. Half an hour later, Yimo and all the management-level staff of Flowing Snake sat in a huge meeting room. Yu Miaodan stood up first and said, I'll talk about the situation of the company first. Luoyu Pharmaceutics has very little variety in products, and the prices can't attract those with lower economic capabilities, which isn't good for the market. The majority of the market are in fact those middle-class citizens, so I suggest we expand into the lower price ranges of the market. Yimo nodded and replied, Sister Yu is right, but right now our products are being supplied worldwide with high demand and low supply. When the beauty pill slows down in sales, we will push out the beauty medicine. Right now, we need more capital, and we're lacking producing power, so we can't excavate the lower end of the market yet. Also, how go the negotiations with Liu Se in Vietnam? That was what Yimo cared about the most. Things are still in the negotiation phase, but the two countries seem interested in our products, and they aren't planning on passing on them, Su Yuehua said. No rush. If they don't agree, I will think of ways to make them agree, Yimo sneered. Although his territory officially belonged to the two countries, if he hadn't built Luoyu here, this land would still be a dumping site. Now that their company was doing well, they all wanted a share. Yu Miaodan intervened. If we build a city here, we have to take into account the land near Guilin, which belongs to China. Should we start negotiations with them? Also, the Chinese military has sent people to negotiate with us, wanting to sell the health pill together with us. Though due to issues concerning the pricing, we haven't reached a consensus yet. No need. We're in no rush for that piece of land. They can give us that wilderness at a later time. Yimo waved his hand and smiled. Then he turned to Zhang Jiayan, ordering, build 2 more factories for me. They need to be larger than the ones before and built in the same style as the beauty and health pill factories. Yimo needed large amounts of money, and his factories were like money printing machines. Yimo still felt like that was too slow, though. Hu, did a young man called Zhanghua arrive here? Yimo thought of that young man who was capable of making medicine. Perhaps he would be of good help. Master, he has come. He's in the herbal research facility. He likes the environment here. Should I call him over? Hu said. No need. Try to help him when needed. He has good talent. It's even higher than yours. Our 2 new factories will be depending on you too. Yimo was very happy with Zhanghua. Brother, there's me too. I have great expertise in herbs. Yiling noticed how Yimo didn't praise her and was unsatisfied. Ning Qingxue smiled and pulled Yiling towards her. Your brother is definitely praising you in his heart. The meeting went on for 2 hours, and Yemo thoroughly understood flowing snake's progress by the end of it. He didn't point fingers at people that much. He only needed to point out a general direction, and they could do the rest. After the meeting, Yemo made Su Yuehua and Su Ping stay behind. Ning Qingxue didn't leave as in everyone's eyes. When Yemo was not around, she was the owner of Flowing Snake. Sister Yuehua, do you have something to say to me? He noticed that she wanted to say something but didn't. Su Yuehua nodded and said, after we had a negotiation with Lu Se increased the number of their military near Flowing Snake. I suspect they could launch an attack at any time. I'm very worried about this. If their military comes, then no matter how prosperous Flowing Snake is, it would all be for nothing. Not to mention, it's completely legal for their military to come, since 80% of our land is actually theirs. Yemo frowned. This was indeed a problem. If he had any better alternative elsewhere, he wouldn't want to stay here either. Su Ping nodded. She's right. Hence, I've started secretly gathering troops. Su Yuehua continued. Although Brother Su had started gathering troops, we have no weapons nor heavy armaments. Yemo didn't worry about weapons. The gangs in America he knew were perfect for that, and even if he couldn't get weapons from them, he could always go to the U.S. military's vault for some. He would need to increase the space in his storage ring first, though. Suddenly the phone rang, and Su Yuehua spoke a few words before her expression changed rapidly. What is it? Yemo asked. He had heard some of the call, but not all of it. Yemo understood that these people had come to assert their dominance to increase their bargaining position. Are you the president of Luoyu? My name is Misa. Our troops have misfired, which I am very sorry about. We will give the victim appropriate compensation and wish to express our sincere apologies, the man said very genuinely, as though his men had really misfired. Yemo sneered. He knew these people had come to assert dominance and test Luoyu's bottom line. If Luoyu acted overly timidly, they would send troops to take over the place then and there. If Luoyu acted tough, they would negotiate about some form of cooperation. They weren't afraid of Luoyu, but they were afraid of Luoyu causing too much drama on the international stage. Yemo was calm and didn't say anything. Seeing this, Yu Miaodong said angrily, these guys are too unreasonable. They clearly killed one of ours on purpose, yet they call it an accident. These people now not only want us to leave Flowing Snake, but also want us to give Luoyu. CEO, Flowing Snake belongs to us, and as we need to set up barracks here, of course you need to move away. For our troops having misfired, we have already apologized and will definitely offer compensation, Misa said. T. How about I kill one of yours too and give you some compensation? Yu Miaodong was very angry. She had never been this angry yet ever since leaving the gangs. Misa saw that Yemo didn't talk and started to look down on him. This guy was a coward. Everything would be easy for them now. Hearing Yu Miaodong's words, his face sunk, and he said, Yu, things don't work like that. This is our land. It doesn't matter if our military killed someone here. Us wanting to offer compensation is simply thanks to our humanity. We didn't actually do anything wrong. Are you threatening us? Yu Miaodong asked coldly. Yemo didn't speak, but that didn't mean she was going to back down. If you must think like that, that's up to you, Misa said. Yu Miaodong sneered. Flowing Snake belongs to Lu Se? How come I heard this place was ownerless? At the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty, this was the home of a tribe called the Guanghe. Because there was no good land here, and it was just barren mountains everywhere with a lack of a reliable water source, the people living here moved away. 100 years ago, a Lu Se fugitive escaped here and gathered a bunch of men to rob by the borders, forming the Flowing Snake Fort. You're saying that this is your land because that fugitive was one of your men, right? You're making up stories. Misa didn't know about that and was so angry he couldn't talk. His soldiers raised their guns. Yemo's eyes brightened up. He didn't know about this story either. Keeping that in mind, Yemo immediately ordered, Sister you stay, everyone else should leave. Although they didn't know what Yemo meant, they still left. Seeing this, Yemo sneered at Misa. You've got some balls killing people at my place. Misa was about to answer in derision, But before he could talk, Yemo flung out what seemed like tins of lights. I've used these needles for quite some time already. You can enjoy them now. Using the military to threaten me? A small place like Luce has no right. Yemo's tone was cold. If he wasn't afraid of sullying his territory, he would have just used wind blades on them. Slump, the soldiers fell to the ground. All of them had a red at the center of their forehead. This man was crazy. He dared to openly kill their troops? This was like challenging their entire country. Misa pointed at Yemo, not knowing what to say. Yemo sat down, and another gold needle shot out. The assistant by Misa's side was also killed. What? I'm leaving you alive so that you can tell the person in charge that I will be visiting him tonight. If you don't order your army to retreat from the border within 24 hours, you can all collect his body. Now, piss off. Yemo was very contemptuous of this guy. Yemo felt more and more that this world was one where if you don't kill, someone will kill you. You take a step back, they abuse you harder. If these soldiers hadn't killed and had only threatened, then he would have at most mutilated them. Second brother, when Misa leaves, tell him to take those trash bodies with him. Also, break his arms and legs, Yemo said to Su Ping. An hour later, Misa, with both his legs broken, scurried away with some troops from the outside. Although Misa had been the person in charge for this, he didn't dare order an attack without clearance. He had only come to threaten and apply pressure. He didn't expect this CEO to be so decisive and kill almost everyone without hesitation. An hour later, Misa, with both his legs broken, scurried away with some troops from the outside. Although Misa had been the person in charge for this, he didn't dare order an attack without clearance. He had only come to threaten and apply pressure. He didn't expect this CEO to be so decisive and kill almost everyone without hesitation. He had wanted to assert dominance by killing one, but immediately, all of the men he brought were killed instead. He would also be dead if he wasn't needed to return with a message. This wasn't what had frightened him the most. What he was shocked about the most was how that CEO had killed his men. He didn't even see it happen. That was too eerie and frightening. He had to report this to the president. Yu Miaodong didn't wake up from her shock in a long time. Although she knew Yemo was strong, she didn't expect Yemo to be this strong. He merely waved his hand and more than 10 men were dead in the blink of an eye. Yemo was much stronger than when she first met him. Of course, she wasn't most shocked about this, but about how openly Yemo had dared to kill Lu Sei's soldiers. CEO Yi, this would make Lu Sei furious. Won't they start a war with Flowing Snake? We don't have any fighting power. Yu Miaodong woke up. No matter how powerful Yemo was, what if their whole army came, or what if they sent out airstrikes? Yemo smiled. Although a war happening was possible, he wouldn't let that happen. He could of course kill the army that came, but that wasn't his goal. Even if he was to kill, he would kill the general or kill the highest commanding power in Lu Sei. Don't worry, I will deal with the Flowing Snake business. Sister Yuehua will need to purchase large amounts of materials, so you and CEO Zong should cooperate with her. Yemo had decided to go to Lu Sei himself. It was best to take care of this early on. Yemo really didn't want war. War would bring no benefit to Flowing Snake. This matter was best settled without startling any international organizations. Luoyu was just a company. After all, it wasn't smart for a company to go against a country. If Yemo truly were powerful to a certain extent, even if it was just foundation establishment, that would be fine. But Yemo wasn't that strong yet. Yemo was planning on visiting Lu Sei at night, so he needed to ask Ning Qingxue about some things beforehand. He didn't even have time to be intimate with her. As Yemo returned to his place, Ning Qingxue was already waiting for him there. Yemo only just walked into the room, and Ning Qingxue already came up and embraced him, blocking his lips with hers. Yemo hugged Ning Qingxue tightly. The two had been more apart than together. Ning Qingxue couldn't resist the longing for Yemo in her heart. Yemo lost himself in the softness and wetness. As that warmth and power she had made Ning Qingxue irresistible. The kiss went on for half an hour before the two breathed heavily and looked at each other. You have to go somewhere again? Ning Qingxue didn't want to let Yemo go. She didn't want Yemo to be always running around. She wanted him to always be with her. Although she did want a calm and carefree home, if that meant Yimo had to work really hard for it, she would rather not have it. Sorry, Qingxue dash. Yimo felt guilty about spending so little time with Ning Qingxue and about his affair with Song Yangzhu. Ning Qingxue blocked Yimo's lips with her finger and said, I just want to be with you. If building a city is too hard, then just forget about it. No, it's not hard for me to build a city, and I want a place that belongs to me as well. I can't just bring you deep into the mountains like the hidden sects, so we definitely need to build a city, Yimo said adamantly. Ning Qingxue didn't try to persuade him. She nodded. In fact, I'm sorry about another thing. The other day, Yimo was hesitant, but he still told her what happened with Song Yangzhu. Where is she now? Unexpectedly, Ning Qingxue asked about her. Yimo shook his head. She probably left. I don't think she will come find me again. I just feel guilty to you and Luoying. Ning Qingxue didn't ask any further about Song Yangzhu and just laid in Yimo's arms. Yimo didn't know if she was angry or not and didn't know what to say. After a while, when it was already dark, Ning Qingxue's soft voice sounded, I want to stay with you this night. Yimo felt warm in his heart. How could he not know what she meant? She was a conservative person, so for her to be able to say such words, it truly signified that Yimo meant everything in her heart. She didn't even mention anything about Song Yangzhu. Yimo lifted her face up and kissed her again. Qingxue, I said I would marry you gloriously. If I can't find Luoying, then when we build Luoyu City, it'll be our moment. There was something Yimo didn't say. He really wanted to have that with Ning Qingxue, but what he also really wished was to find lots of resources so that everyone around him could reach foundation establishment. But that was very hard. Out of 1,000 cultivators in Luoying, only one could reach foundation establishment. Ning Qingxue's talent was good, but if he took her virginity before she reached foundation establishment, it would be harder for her. He didn't want to make her lose that opportunity, but he didn't want to tell her yet, since he didn't want to give her the mental burden. By the way, did those mutants come for you again? Yimo remembered what he'd wanted to ask her. But there shouldn't be any other forces intervening, Eugene said. But there shouldn't be any other forces intervening, Eugene said. Haimoden shook his head. That's not what I mean. Although there's no clear statement saying who Flowing Snake belongs to, everyone agrees that it's our land. I'm worried that if that Yimo really is a wizard, then no matter how strong our armies are, he can just kill our commanders. How are we going to fight that? Mohance said in contempt. If he's really that strong, shouldn't he be here now then? Didn't he make Misa come tell us that he was coming tonight? Then how come I don't see him? No one agreed to Mohance's words, and he stopped halfway as well, because suddenly, an extra person had appeared in this room. Everyone stared at him, not knowing where he came from. Yimo had come to this meeting, but since he didn't understand a word, he could only walk out. He's the president of that Luoyu. So he's really a wizard. He really came. Misa screamed. Hearing this, the guards at the door thought something had happened and rushed in, but as soon as they did, Yimo threw 2 fireballs at them, and they were turned to dust. Yimo then found a place to sit and sat down before saying, Misa, it seems you guys didn't take my words seriously. There's not much time left from the 24-hour time limit. If you don't make a move soon, then don't blame me. I will kill you guys first, and then I'll take care of your army. I'll kill every living thing I see. Everyone realized now that what Misa had said wasn't nonsense. He was the first to react and translated Yimo's words. Not only Haimoden and Eugene's faces were pale, even Mohance couldn't say anything. They were sure Yimo was a wizard now, a strong wizard at that, like one from the legends that could curse an entire country. We agree. Without arguing any further, Haimoden kept nodding. He felt regret for how greedy they'd been. Due to it, they offended a wizard. Luce was still an imperial state a little over 10 years ago. They'd only recently become a democratic country, so Amo Haydn's power was much stronger than other presidents. Our president agreed. Our army will retreat immediately, please rest assured. Maisu kept nodding like crazy. Yimo knew they wouldn't dare reject him, but he didn't think it would be this easy. Yemo didn't expect them to think of him as some all-powerful wizard. Since they'd agreed, Yemo didn't need to kill anymore. He looked at Misa and said, "Do I still need to give Luo you?" "No, no. We'll immediately give you the governing right of flowing snake," Misa answered without even asking the president. This was too simple, wasn't it? Yemo had wanted to kill one or two higher-ups, but he didn't even have to ask anything, yet they already agreed. "Sign this sale of territory agreement and send it to Flowing Snake by tomorrow." Yemo took out an agreement and dumped it on the ground. Then he shook his head and left through the window while invisible. This was for some extra show too. He needed to make them fear him. People fear what they cannot comprehend. The four saw Yemo disappear out of thin air and looked at each other. No one spoke for 10 minutes. If there wasn't for the agreement right in front of their eyes, they would have thought it had been an illusion. In her subconsciousness, Ning Qingxue felt like she was being embraced. She was shocked, but that familiar smell allowed her to realize that Yemo was back. In her joy, she squeezed deeper into Yemo's arms. Yemo used a few mind-calming chants to calm himself down inside. After that incident with Song Yangzhu, he seemed to have gotten a lower resistance to these things. The next morning, when Yemo was still in bed with Ning Qingshue's phone rang. It was Yu Miaodong. When Yemo and Ning Qingxue went into the meeting room, Yemo found that almost everyone was already present except for him and Ning Qingxue. Yemo didn't mind, but Ning Qingshue's face was burning red as though the whole world was looking at them. Yu Miaodong took out a document and put it in front of Yemo. Lu Se gave up Flowing Snake for free and sent this agreement earlier this morning. They didn't make any requests. Yemo smiled. This was as expected. Wasn't he just too kind? A more evil person would have perhaps made Lu Se compensate. As soon as Yu Miaodong finished, Sui Huahua got up and said, "In the morning, I received another news. Vietnam also said they're willing to give us the Flowing Snake territory, but they have some conditions. They have an entrepreneur who also wishes to invest in us. They want us to give them tax-free privileges and easy passage, and they want us to open an outlet in Vietnam." Yemo nodded. "These are two pieces of good news. We'll agree to Vietnam's condition. To us, it doesn't matter if we open an outlet there or not." Yemo then left Sui Huahua to deal with the city building. Once his power was high enough, perhaps at Foundation Establishment, he would set up a formation over the city, making it the strongest fort on Earth. After the meeting, everyone went to their respective positions, and Flowing Snake became busy again. Yemo wished to go find Fengwu now that all the planning had been pretty much taken care of. He wanted to ask about the spirit well and the crystals. He could power up from them, and perhaps after that, he could go to the inner hidden sects to find more herbs. After experiencing Ren Pingchuan's power, Yemo didn't want to casually enter the inner hidden sects and put himself in danger again. "Sister Yuehua, do you have something?" Yemo saw that Sui Yuehua didn't leave and asked. Sui Yuehua nodded and said carefully, "Last time, you told me to investigate the northern sand, and today, our men reported back with some news. It's from Vietnam." Yemo got excited. Sui Yuehua took out a letter and said, "Northern Sand seems to have lost something important to them, and the member responsible for it has also escaped. They are searching for him all over. I have a picture of him." Then, Sui Yuehua gave the letter to Yemo. Yemo took it and said with praise, "The people you sent out really are something, even being able to get a picture." Sui Yuehua smiled and said, "This was also our luck. We didn't take the picture. They found a heavily injured Northern Sand member who was about to die and got it from him. Technical personnel has escaped?" Yemo thought of the Spaceflower blueprint. If that was what this man was responsible for, and Yemo managed to find the guy and bring him to Flowing Snake. Yemo quickly opened the envelope. In it was a bundle of obscure photos. Luoying? Yemo was dazed after seeing one of the pictures as he noticed a certain figure in the crowd. Luoying? Sui Yuehua didn't know what Yemo meant. Luoying? Sui Yuehua didn't know what Yemo meant. Yemo looked at the photo carefully and ignored the escaped Northern Sand guy. He only noticed a slim figure in one corner of the photo. That was Luo Susu. Yemo's mind had wandered off into the desert, under that searing sun. to the yellow-dressed goddess that was out of this world. Seeing Yimo seemingly lost in thought, Suiwahua didn't say anything. Yimo was probably reminiscing something. She waited for Yimo patiently. Sister Yuehua, do you know where this photo was taken? Yimo breathed heavily. Even though the photo was dated 2 months ago, and he might not find her even if he went to the location of the photo, he had to go check at least. Suiwahua shook her head. We found this on the northern sand member. We don't know where it was taken. Yimo nodded and said, Okay, thank you, Sister Yuehua. Stay alert on the topic of northern sand, but for now, put the main focus on building a city. We must build our own city. Suiwahua said, President Yi, our current power still comes from Gue Lin, but due to the scale of our constructions, the supply isn't enough, and if we want to make Flowing Snake our own, we can't rely on others too much. Yimo had never thought about this. If he relied on others, there would be a conflict of interest, and he would be held back. Thinking about this, Yimo immediately said, We'll continue to recruit large amounts of technical personnel and excavate our own civilian facilities. We must control all of it. But our funds, Suiwahua uttered worriedly. Although Luoyu was earning a lot, they were spending more than they made. Funds were an issue indeed. Yimo frowned for a while before saying, I'll deal with the funds. You start on it in the meantime. After Suiwahua left, Yimo was left thinking about how to earn money in his office. He had face-preserving pills and luminous pearls, but these were unique items. Once they were sold, they'd be gone. But it was still better than not selling at all. If he took it to a normal auction, he wouldn't be able to sell much. That face-preserving pill AHD only sold for 100 million with Emohai's help. This was far from what Yimo would be happy with. It would appear he needed to go to that space organization from the Shixia Temple. Only they could sell it for a higher price. Just when Yimo was thinking about how to earn money, Yiling ran in with red eyes. She was clearly worried. Brother, something happened to second brother. He disappeared last night. Someone sent a letter to Flowing Snake in the morning for you, saying it's related to second brother. Yiling handed Yimo the letter. Was his name still not big enough? Someone dared touch Yi Zifeng? Yimo had stated that Yiling and Yi Zifeng were his siblings. If someone had dared touch Yi Zifeng, he would slaughter all involved. At the same time, Yimo wasn't too happy with Tan Jiao and Wan Qingfeng. It was because they had agreed to protect the Yi family that he let Tan Jiao live, yet now, Yi Zifeng was abducted. Don't worry, let me look at what this is. Yimo comforted her and opened the letter. The letter was very polite, too polite even. Mr. Yimo, we've heard of your big name, and if possible, we would never want to mess with you or cause any misunderstandings with you. Hence, we didn't take your sister and took your brother instead. Please understand. Yi Zifeng is living very well here. We wouldn't mistreat him at all, so please rest assured. We just need to discuss some things with you personally, but because we had no way of seeing you, we could only use this measure. If you don't mind, please come to the Otherworldly Entertainment Center in Luotsang City within 3 days. There was no time nor person nor reason given, just a location. Yimo knew the Otherworldly Entertainment Place. That was the HQ of Metal River. Why did these people choose that location in Luotsang City furthermore? Yimo got that this thing was 100% related to him, and that Yi Zifeng was probably just taken due to him. Who had he offended? He killed everyone who he offended. Even those people who might scheme to target him, they wouldn't dare to touch the people around him. Yiling, don't worry. If you have time, learn to cultivate qi with Qingxue. Yimo patted her shoulder. With this, Yimo once again confirmed that no matter how strong he was, without his own land, a safe base, the people around him wouldn't be safe. As long as there were benefits involved, people would still target him. Ning Qingxue had also heard about it. Yimo wasn't too worried about her now, as she was already at the peak of stage 2 and had learned the fireball magic. She should be able to protect herself. Qingxue, I'll leave the matters here to you. I will bring Zifeng back. Yimo stood up and said. Regardless of what their motives were or how polite they were declaring war by abducting Yi Zifeng. There were many ways to contact Yimo, yet they chose this one. Yimo had wanted to stay at Flowing Snake for a while with Qingxue and earn some money, but then this thing had to happen. He was very angry. There was just no end to these things. He couldn't even get one moment of peace. For the first time, Yemo felt that there were more and more people around him, yet those who were really capable were only Su Yuehua, Yu Miaodong, and a few others. His men didn't have much power. However, if you take Qian Longtu for example, even though he was only a mafia boss, no matter where he went, he was someone feared. Was he too kind? For the first time, Yemo felt that he needed to arm his men. He needed his own army and stronger power. Perhaps I should go to Sina when I'm free. It'd be a good idea to store an army there, Yemo murmured. Thinking about this, Yemo suddenly stood up. Chapter 508, Dominance. Chapter 508, Dominance. Those 23 men in black were strong men, and they didn't look simple at all, but in Yemo's eyes, they were no different from insects. The strongest of them all was only at the yellow level primary stage. Other than the yellow level guys, there were 4 black level fighters standing above the 23 men, but Yemo didn't care about them either. The only ones Yemo took notice of were the 3 sitting at the very top. The man in the middle was dressed in white and had no power. He seemed like an ordinary person, but the 2 beside him caught Yemo's attention. The left one was tall and had a sharp nose. His eyes were blue, and his energy wave was very strange. Yemo couldn't tell his power level, but he guessed that the guy was similar to the mutants he had killed before. The man on the right was of a medium build, had an eagle-like nose and a cold glare to him. This was a peak Earth-level warrior. Although Yemo didn't have to mind them, he still felt like this organization wasn't simple. For a negotiation with him at Luotsang, they brought this many powerful men. Yemo had been in contact with the hidden sects a lot and knew that an Earth Peak stage cultivation wasn't easy to have. Even Diansong, the 4th-ranked hidden sect, only had 1 Earth Peak, and it was their sect leader. Yemo didn't dumbly think that this was all of the organization's power, nor would he think the white-clothed man was the big boss. But Yemo had even killed someone as terrifying as Ren Pingchuan. He wouldn't be scared of these people. If they were to fight, he had the confidence to kill everyone there in an extremely short amount of time. He didn't want to have a big feud with this organization, but if he didn't show his willingness to kill, they would only abuse him more, so he had to kill people today. However, Yemo understood that even if he killed, he shouldn't kill the top 3 people. If he did, there would be no going back. Those 2 probably had a certain status in the organization, but that white-clothed man was most likely even higher. But if these people were too demanding, Yemo wouldn't mind fighting them to the end. The white-clothed man didn't speak at first as he inspected Yemo, saw how calm he was and didn't seem scared at all, and finally nodded. He got up and said, "You're Yemo? I have been hearing your great name a lot lately, and upon seeing you, I see that you are indeed a dragon amongst men. Please have a seat. I'm called Liang Shirgua, and it's an honor to meet you." Yemo sneered. The white-clothed man sat at the top, yet told him to sit below. There would be more than a 10 meters distance between them. He clearly wanted to assert dominance right from the start. Contrarily, Yemo didn't sit down and said coldly instead, "My patience is limited. Get my brother here quick. And these 2 rows of black-clothed men, I don't like them. Tell them to piss off." Liang Shirgua didn't seem to have heard Yemo and said instead, "First, I would like to express my deep regret for having had to invite Mr. Yizifeng over, but we have a crucial request for you, and we would like to apologize for what we did." Liang Shirgua seemed very genuine and humble. "Did you not hear what I just said?" Yemo hadn't seen Yizifeng yet, so he wanted to be patient for now. This time, Liang Shirgua didn't play dumb and put on a difficult face. "Mr. Yemo, you could kill the Black Sun Ninja on stage, which would be another clear testament to your dominating power, but I'm not in control of the stronger people by my side." Yemo smiled. "That means if I were to put them to sleep, Mr. Liang wouldn't mind?" "Haha." Liang Shirgua laughed. "Of course not, but I wouldn't be able to fathom what reaction they would have. I know your power, but there are 23 of them, not a mere 2 or 3. Then, Liang Shirgua looked at Yemo with irony. He hadn't mentioned that these people had guns, but in this open ground, no matter how strong Yemo was, he wouldn't be able to kill them all in a few seconds. They could fire within a second, and no one would be able to dodge. Although once one reached the black level, one could catch a bullet, these guns were specially crafted. Even Earth Peak fighters wouldn't be able to stand his ground against one, much less so many. As though to back up Liang Shirgua's words, as soon as he spoke, the 23 men took out their guns. Since Mr. Liang won't mind, that's great. As soon as Emo said this, he jumped up. Liang Shirgua's face changed. He didn't expect Emo to really attack. Did he not want to live? If the 23 people fired, even immortals wouldn't be able to get away. Even if, like those Black Sun ninja, he could travel through Earth, he wouldn't be able to travel through this concrete floor. Liang Shirgua didn't want Emo to die. He had many ways for Emo to die, but he just wanted to cooperate with Emo. He knew Emo was very strong and didn't want to offend him too badly. That's why he chose to abduct Yi Zifeng. He heard that Emo cared about his women a lot. The reason why Emo caused the Song family's decline was Emo's wife, Ning Qingxue, and Dongfang she had died for wanting to touch his sister. This time, Liang Shirgua chose carefully and abducted Yi Zifeng. This wouldn't offend Emo too much, yet would also let him know of their power. If they then lowered their attitude and gave some money, perhaps they could even establish a friendly relationship with Emo. This would benefit them greatly. But he didn't expect Emo to be this violent and attack immediately. Bang bang, the black-clothed men acted fast and shot as soon as Emo jumped. But the gunshots stopped just as rapidly. After that volley, they stopped altogether, and Liang Shirgua was dazed. Emo stood where he had, as though he had never moved. But the 23 black-clothed men and the 4 black-level fighters had all fallen to the ground. If it wasn't for the blood trickling from their body, Liang Shirgua would have thought they were just taking a nap. You, Liang Shirgua froze. This many people having died this time, even he wouldn't be able to report back without consequences. They had lost 23 elite members and 4 black-level warriors just like that. These black levels were deemed precious resources within the organization. Each death would be called a huge loss, not to mention 4 deaths at the same time. Liang Shirgua didn't expect Emo to react like this. The 2 men beside Liang Shirgua were about to attack, but Liang Shirgua quickly stopped them. He knew Emo had the power to kill the Earth Peak warriors too, and if these 2 died, his only option would be to kill himself. How can you kill so many of our men? Liang Shirgua tried to force himself to calm down, but he couldn't. Emo smiled. I asked you before, and you said you wouldn't mind, so I killed them. Emo, I know you're strong, but you can't kill my men before we even start negotiating. If you kill all of us here today, can you annihilate the entire Northern Sand? Liang Shirgua calmed down. He felt like he needed to make Emo know what sort of an organization Northern Sand was. No matter how strong Emo was, he was only one person, so they were from Northern Sand. Emo was sure that Su Yuehua wouldn't have let others know that he was investigating them. In that case, why did they abduct his family? Was he easy to abuse or something? Hearing Liang Shirgua's words, Emo sneered, Negotiation? When did I say I want to negotiate with you? Did I let you abduct my brother willingly? I'll say this once more. We can negotiate, but you must get my brother here first. Also, don't sit that high up, or you might fall to your death. Are you not afraid of us killing your brother? And we invited you over to negotiate in the first place. Why are you so aggressive? I know you're strong, but our Northern Sand isn't something to be messed with. Liang Shirgua was getting angry. He had already made his power clear to Emo, but this guy was still so arrogant. Emo sneered, You can kill Yi Zifeng, but if you do, I promise you that the 3 of you won't leave this meeting room alive, and from now on, I will kill Northern Sand people whenever I see them. I won't stop until I kill you all. Oomph. That white-clothed man clearly understood Emo's words and wanted to fight right then and there. Liang Shirgua stopped him, though. He knew that even if the 2 were to beat Emo, they would be heavily injured in the procès. Emo could even kill all of those Black Sun ninja. Although his 2 men were strong, none of them could kill so many ninja alone. Liang Shirgua's expression showed his anger. Emo was too cocky, but he had to do what Emo said. If he had dared do that, he was sure he would also kill the 3 of them. Liang Shirgua's expression showed his anger. Emo was too cocky, but he had to do what Emo said. If he had dared do that, he was sure he would also kill the three of them. Although he wasn't happy about his men being dead and the fact that the negotiation power was in Yimo's hands, Liang Shirgua had no choice now. He pressed a button on the table and said, "Bring Yi Zifeng here immediately." After that, Liang Shirgua said again, "Mr. Yi, we are gathered here to have a genuine discussion with you, but you killed 27 of our elite men as soon as you came. Is this the way you do things? Our northern sand isn't something to be messed with easily. Even if you're absurdly strong, you can't protect the Yi family and Flowing Snake all by yourself." Yi Yimo smiled. "If you want a genuine discussion, then don't play tricks. As I said before, don't threaten me. Your northern sand is strong, and that's your business. I have no intentions of becoming your enemy, but I'm not afraid of you either." Yi Yimo knew that Liang Shirgua was not someone that got easily subjugated. The reason he was acting soft wasn't because he was afraid of death, but because the thing they were going to discuss with him was very important. "You're very arrogant, and if you think you can go around showing off just because you killed that ninja, then you're wrong. That ninja was nothing. I, Chen Jue, could have also killed him in a short time. Yi Yimo, we don't want to get into a fight with you, not because we're afraid of you, but because we have no conflict of interest. A friend is better than an enemy." It was the Earth Peak level man speaking. Liang Shirgua frowned, and he thought it was a bluff. The ninja had been said to be able to easily kill Earth Peak level martial artists. Yi Yimo looked at Chen Jue with surprise. He didn't think Chen Jue was lying. After all, the ninja was only good at movement techniques. Those who fought him the first time were at a disadvantage, but once one figured out his movement, he would be at most an Earth-level middle-stage martial artist, or even less. Yi Yimo realized that Yi Zifeng had now entered an otherworldly entertainment. He didn't want Yi Zifeng to see the bloody scene. So he scanned Liang Shirgua and said, "Let him go alone." Liang Shirgua knew what Yi Yimo was talking about, so he gave the order. Since Yi Yimo was here, there was no point in keeping Yi Zifeng. "Okay, now that your brother has left, can we start our negotiation? If you wish to continue negotiating, then please come into the secret room." Liang Shirgua got up and said. Yi Yimo smiled. Liang Shirgua didn't dare to sit above him then, so he said, "In that case, please." It was as though nothing had happened, and the bloody scene was not related to Yi Yimo. Liang Shirgua regained his composure and led Yi Yimo into a small room. This room wasn't big, at most 40 square meters, but Yi Yimo found 3 cameras as soon as he came in. They were well hidden, but no matter how hidden they were, they couldn't escape from Yi Yimo's spirit sense. He took out 3 golden needles and destroyed the cameras. All of this happened in an instant and no one noticed. Although Yi Yimo didn't know why Liang Shirgua was taking him there under surveillance, he didn't like to leave evidence behind. "Mr. Yi, let me introduce them to you. These 2 men are Chen Jue and Peter. I hope the discussion will go smoothly." Liang Shirgua introduced each other. Yi Yimo sat down and said straightforwardly, "Mr. Liang, if you have something to say, just say it. No need to waste time." Yi Yimo knew that a conflict had developed between them. No matter how polite he would be, Northern Sand wasn't going to give up on getting revenge. And even if they were to get revenge, they would have to do it after Yi Yimo died. He had heard about their organization. They had great ambition, and they wouldn't offend a master like him for 20 or 30 irrelevant people. "Then I'll say it. Mr. Yi, I believe you've heard about the issue with the He Feng Yuan family, right? Although you didn't appear, we know it has something to do with you." Liang Shirgua stared at Yi Yimo and said. Yi Yimo sneered. "There was no point in denying it. That's right. I annihilated the Yuan family." "Great. I love your courage for admitting the things you have done." Liang Shirgua clapped and said. But then he added, "Yuan Zhirong is an outer member of ours. It was his fault for going against your Luo Yu. However, we left something with the Yuan families, and for some reason later on we couldn't find it on Yuan Zhirong." Then, Liang Shirgua stared at Yi Yimo, studying his expression. He was looking for something. Liang Shirgua gave him a long stare, but he didn't get what he wanted, so he continued. "Later on, we believed the government had it, but after investigating, we are certain the government doesn't have it. So, someone must have taken it. Hence, we invited you over today wanting to ask if you've seen it." Yi Yimo thought about it. It was probably the golden case he found next to Yuan Zhirong's crash. No wonder no one stopped the plane from leaving back then. There were Northern Sand people among the higher-ups, too. Northern Sand was really scary. They were everywhere. What thing are you talking about? Emo frowned and asked. His expression showed that he knew nothing about it in irritation. Liang Shirgua's heart sunk. He had studied countless people, and he was very calculating and experienced. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been responsible for that. But he couldn't get anything from Yemo's expression. Even if Yemo denied it, as long as he knew it was on Yemo, he would have been able to get it from him through other ways. If it had been someone else, they would have captured him and interrogated. Now Liang Shirgua understood why his higher-ups didn't do that. He only had that chance, and now that Yemo had asked, he said, "It's a golden case with a fist-sized crystal inside. It looks like diamond, but it's not. It's a type of ore. This thing has no use for others, only to our Northern Sand. If Mr. Yi could find it, we're willing to pay 10 billion for it." Yemo was shocked. Not even a diamond's worth could compare to that price. What kind of crystal was worth that much? It seemed he needed to have a closer look at it. If that thing was that precious, he needed to find out from Liang Shirgua what it did. $10 billion wouldn't be used up in a long time, even in flowing snake. This Northern Sand really was wealthy. If he killed them, wouldn't all that wealth be his? 10 billion wouldn't be used up in a long time, even in flowing snake. This Northern Sand really was wealthy. If he killed them, wouldn't all that wealth be his? Thinking about this, Yemo was excited. But then he thought, that doesn't seem very possible. It said there are a lot of Northern Sand bases. How could he annihilate them all? It wasn't just killing 30 people like today. It was reasonable that he killed today, because it was Northern Sand that offended him first. But if he really pissed off Northern Sand, he wouldn't be able to protect his people with his current power. Thinking about this, Yemo was dejected. He was a mighty cultivator, yet he couldn't even protect those by his side. It seemed he would need to cultivate faster and increase the power of his men. No matter what, he needed to know what the crystal was for. He couldn't ask questions with all these guys around, so he had to come back at night and ask privately. Other than that, the 10 billion also interested Yemo. He wasn't going to pass on that. Thinking about this, he asked Mr. Liang, if that crystal is only fist-sized, wouldn't Yuan Zhirong have hid it in a secret place, and you guys might have missed it? Liang Shirgua shook his head immediately. That's impossible. We have a detector which can detect it within 1,000 meters, and it didn't find anything at the Yuan family. No wonder, even with the power of Northern Sand, they didn't attack him straight away. They did suspect him and probably even went a flowing snake to check, but of course, they hadn't found anything. Storage rings were really good things, weren't they? Yemo knew that there was no high-tech in the world that could detect what was inside his ring. Yemo suddenly looked intensely pensive, as though making a hard decision. Mr. Yi, although we don't know why Yuan Zhirong would blow up his mansion, the secret meetings footage that was leaked was probably related to you, right? You've been to his house, and that's why we're asking you if you know where it was. Liang Shirgua reacted to Yemo's expression just the way he wanted, and this made him excited. Yemo smiled. I was the one who moved the bomb to their mansion, and you're right, I made the footage too. Although I don't know what that crystal is, I will go try and find it. Simply for that 10 billion alone, it's worth it. Liang Shirgua frowned. He didn't quite get what Yemo was thinking, but he thought Yemo didn't know where the crystal was. In that case, we won't disturb Mr. Yi anymore. I'm deeply regretful about this misunderstanding. Of course, if you do manage to find the crystal, please contact us at first notice. This is my card. Liang Shirgua got up and handed Yemo a golden card. Yemo suddenly reached out his hand to Liang Shirgua and said, I'm very sorry, Mr. Liang. I didn't think it was something this small. If I had known, I wouldn't have offended the Northern Sand. I hope you can understand my desperate feeling at the time. At the same time, I wish to help Mr. Liang find that crystal as fast as possible. Mr. Yi, this is like getting to know each other through conflict. If Mr. Yi can really find the crystal, then even bigger conflicts wouldn't matter at all, Liang Shirgua said with a smile. Yemo sneered. He knew that Liang Shirgua was implying that this thing wasn't over. If he found the crystal, things might be better, but if he didn't, he would be receiving Northern Sand's fury. Yemo shook hands with him, just so he could mark him with his spirit sense. He wasn't going to let this Northern Sand off easily. Naturally, since I've decided to help you find the crystal, I will look for it wholeheartedly. How much time are you willing to give me? Yemo knew that he hadn't completely started war with Northern Sand yet. He needed time to develop his own strength. Liang Shirgua was dazed. He thought Yemo was just agreeing on the surface, but wouldn't be doing anything. Yet now it seemed that Yemo really wanted to help them find the crystal. Liang Shirgua said happily, I think if Mr. Yi can find it in a year, then not only will you get the 10 billion easily, but you will also get other surprises. What Liang Shirgua didn't expect was that after shaking hands with him, Yemo shook hands with Peter and Chinjue too. His expression was hospitable and deeply regretful, as though this misunderstanding was all his fault. Not only Liang Shirgua, but also Peter and Chinjue were weirded out by Yemo's drastic change in attitude. They didn't think of Yemo as someone timid, so after thinking about it a bit, only that 10 billion could explain things. Yemo left otherworldly entertainment, but he didn't leave Luotsang yet. He still had some business to take care of that night. He had marked them all. After making sure no one was following him, Yemo went into another busy district and wanted to find a bar. Then he heard someone call out his name. Brother Emo. A young girl's voice sounded. It's you. Yang Yi? Yemo remembered her. This was the girl which sat in the same carriage as he did when he first came to Luotsang by train. She wasn't that pretty, but she was a very kind soul. After finding out that Yemo had had his wallet stolen, she wanted to give Yemo money, but Yemo didn't take it. It really is you. Brother Emo, it's been so long. After you and Who left, you never contacted me again, Yang Yi said happily. Yemo looked at her awkwardly. If he didn't see her here, he would have forgotten her indeed. Xiao Yi, who is he? A guy of medium build walked over and looked at Yemo in confusion. Yang Yi quickly said, This is Brother Emoing. He's very good at medicine. Brother Emo, this is my boyfriend, Lu Shang. By the way, how is your clinic going? Yang Yi spoke a lot. Hello, I'm Lu Shang. Yang Yi's boyfriend shook hands with Yemo in a friendly manner. Yemo then said embarrassingly to Yang Yi, Sorry, Yang Yi, I should confess that due to certain circumstances, I didn't tell you my real name in the past. I'm actually called Yemo, and I stopped by clinic. Who is doing very well. You're welcome to come hang out with us when you have time. Before Yang Yi could reply, a group of people came. Yang Yi, Lu Shang, what are you two still doing here? Let's go. A young girl called out. She was a little short, but her face was very exquisite. Okay, we're coming. Yang Yi turned to Yemo and said, Sorry, we're about to graduate, and we're having a celebration. Why don't you come with us? I don't think it's appropriate for me to go. Yemo wanted to go find Liang Shirgua and company at night. He wasn't interested in these gatherings. Yang Yi whispered in Yemo's ear, This time, it's the richest person in my class paying for everyone at Yunshang Pearl. It'd be a waste not to go. Yemo knew that restaurant. It was a 5-star restaurant, but right now, he wouldn't want to go to even an 8-star restaurant. Before Yemo could reject, Yang Yi said, You'd get to see an extremely beautiful girl today. Gu Mingnan literally found her. Yemo smiled, but didn't talk. Do you not believe me? He really found her. Last time when he went deep into the mountains to play with some friends, they found her unconscious and injured. Gu Mingnan saved her, and she stayed at his house. It's said that she's getting better, and so he's bringing her tonight to show off, Yang Yi explained. Come on, let's go together, Brother Yi. I still want to go see Who after dinner, though. Then, Yang Yi dragged Yemo along. Come on, let's go together, Brother Yi. I still want to go see Who after dinner, though. Then, Yang Yi dragged Yemo along. Yemo shook his head and thought he might as well go. Yang Yi, who is that? That small girl asked as she saw that. Yang Yi let go of Yemo and said, He's my cousin. If you're interested, I can introduce you. The girls laughed and started asking about Yemo. The group entered the Yunshang Pearl in laughter and joy. The place was indeed very grandiloquent. Yang Yi's gathering took place on the 9th floor. When Yang Yi brought Yimo in, there were already more than 10 people there. Seeing Yang Yi, everyone greeted her and soon started talking about the girlfriend Gu Mingnan had found. Eventually, even Yimo got curious. He wanted to see what sort of woman would be able to cause such a ruckus. After listening for a while, Yimo only found out that the woman was called Luo Luo and that she was much prettier than even movie stars. Other than that, he also heard that Luo Luo had been found near the Duanheng ranges. It was said that Luo Luo had been very depressed ever since waking up and didn't talk much. Brother Yi, if it wasn't for the fact that she was found by Gu Mingnan, I would think you two match quite well. She seems to have the same temperament as you. It's that feeling you can't really describe, Yang Yi said. Yimo smiled and didn't say anything. Lu Shang quickly said, Xiao Yi, don't say that. If Gu Mingnan finds out, he won't be happy. Aren't you a bit too timid? Yang Yi said loudly, and her voice caught the attention of many other students. Lu Shang blushed and didn't say anything. Yimo quickly signaled for Yang Yi to sit down. He could tell Lu Shang was a careful person and cared about her a lot. Mingnan and his girlfriend, Luo Luo, are here. Let's applaud. At this time, someone clapped. A young man and a woman in her 20s came in. The woman had a faint white veil over her face, and even though she wore a dress, her figure was quite easy to make out nonetheless. She had a small waist and pearly white skin. Yimo moved his eyes onto the woman and immediately felt like he was familiar with this woman. Yimo soon realized who it was. It's actually her. No wonder she was found in the mountains. Mingnan, take her veil off, let us see her. People all around cheered. Gu Mingnan laughed and said, Luo Luo didn't want to come, but today is our graduation celebration. So she still came to see everyone, but she'll be leaving immediately. Luo Luo, take off your veil, Gu Mingnan said, but he noticed how her eyes were glaring at a student in the room. Gu Mingnan also looked over. Yimo shook his head. He knew that this woman had recognized him, so he could only stand up. Just as Yimo wanted to say something, this woman ran up to him and grabbed his hand. She seemed to want to say something yet not be able to. Although Yimo also wanted to ask why she was here, he knew that now wasn't the time. Gu Mingnan looked at the two dazedly and didn't know what to say. After a long while, he reacted and asked desperately, Luo Luo, who is he? What are you doing? Sorry, Mingnan. I just saw my brother here, and I remembered some things. Thank you for taking care of me during this time, but I'll be going back with my brother. The girl spoke while taking off her veil, but no one was paying attention to her words anymore as they all stared at her face. It wasn't extremely beautiful, but it had a royal and heavenly vibe. Yimo touched his nose and didn't disagree. Although he was wondering why Luo Xian's big martial sister had reached a state where she lost all of her inner qi, he didn't deny knowing her. On Luo Xian's account, he would help her if he could. Besides, Yimo suspected that the Ni Luo Sutra was on her, so he still needed to ask her about it. You're saying he's your brother? Gu Mingnan didn't react for a long time. Luo Yi nodded. Yes, I didn't remember before, but now that I saw him, I remembered. Gu Mingnan looked at Yimo with suspicion. Yimo didn't look like a brother who just found his lost sister, but he couldn't force her to stay with him. He had saved her, but hadn't even been able to touch her hand when she woke up. His frustration made him think, I must get this woman. With my family's power in Luotsong, so what if she found her brother? Yimo could already tell that Gu Mingnan wanted to take advantage of Luo Yin. Thinking about this, he sneered at Gu Mingnan's ignorance. Ancient martial artists like her were ruthless. They weren't innocent souls like Luo Xian. Although Gu Mingnan had saved Luo Yin, if he kept trying to take advantage of her, Luo Yin would kill him all the same. The reason she hadn't was because she was heavily injured. Yang Yi and everyone in the room froze. They didn't expect Yimo to be Luo Luo's brother. This was too comical. Those with a meticulous heart could already see the problem, though. There was no excitement of the reunion of siblings to be seen. Yimo, you're Luo Xin's boyfriend. Can't you look a little happier seeing me? Luo Yin obviously wasn't happy with Yimo's attitude. Yimo was shocked. If Luo Yin was injured like this, how would Luo Xin be? Luo Xin was very innocent and kind-hearted. She had even given Yimo 2 of those important golden papers. She had even been willing to jump off with him. In his heart, Luo Xian was just as important as Yi Ling or Tang Beiwei. What happened to Luo Xian? Yi Mo grabbed Luo Yin's hand with a worried face. Luo Yin felt a sliver of envy. If only she could have someone who worried about her like that. Luo Xian is fine. Don't worry. Luo Xian doesn't know what happened to me. If nothing unexpected has happened, she should be in a safe place at the moment, Luo Yin said. But Yi Mo was still concerned, and he still had a lot to ask her about, but he knew this wasn't the place to talk. Haha, Luo found her brother. This is worth celebrating. Let's drink to celebrate this happy occasion. Gu Mingnan said this before Luo Yin could leave. Haha, Luo found her brother. This is worth celebrating. Let's drink to celebrate this happy occasion. Gu Mingnan said this before Luo Yin could leave. Although Luo Yin really wanted to leave, she could only follow after Yi Mo. Yi Mo didn't want to leave Yang Yi in an awkward spot, so he brought her over to introduce her to Yang Yi. Lu Shang might be timid, but he wasn't dumb. He could tell that Yi Mo wasn't Luo Yin's brother, and that Gu Mingnan didn't like Yi Mo. If Gu Mingnan knew that Yang Yi had brought Yi Mo in, he wouldn't like Yang Yi either. Yi Mo could tell what Lu Shang was thinking, but he knew that Luo Yin wasn't to be blamed for this, and he wouldn't let Gu Mingnan get revenge on Yang Yi. Soon, the dishes came, and with Gu Mingnan's lead all the guys in the room drank to Yi Mo, wanting to get him drunk. Luo Yin knew that Yi Mo cultivated ancient martial arts, but she was worried it wouldn't be enough with this many people drinking to Yi Mo. She was worried and hinted at Yi Mo many times, but Yi Mo didn't seem to notice her. He drank to everyone. Gu Mingnan rejoiced at this. Eventually, even Yang Yi realized what was happening and pulled Yi Mo, wanting him to drink less, but Gu Mingnan saw this and only became even angrier at Yang Yi. But as they drank and drank, even Gu Mingnan felt something was wrong. A few of his classmates were already drunk, but Yi Mo was still clearly sober. He cursed at Yi Mo's alcohol tolerance. Just when Gu Mingnan wanted to think of another way, the door to their room was kicked open. Gu Mingnan cursed, "Which bastard are you? Do you want to die?" Gu Mingnan suddenly stopped. He looked fearfully at the woman behind the two men who kicked open the door and called out, "Big sister, Miss Qingsheng, you made the right call. If Ms. Luo wasn't here, your Gu family would be over." A weird tone sounded. Before Gu Mingnan understood what was going on, he gained more courage upon hearing Luo. He immediately stood up and said, "Sister, what's this?" That cold-looking girl didn't seem to hear Gu Mingnan's words and said to the rich second generation next to her, "Young Master One, I've already brought you guys here. Now, this has nothing to do with the Gu family anymore, right?" "Hee, it's not up to you to decide that," that young Master One said creepily and then glanced lustfully at Gu Qingqing's chest before looking into the room. His eyes soon settled on Luo Yin and immediately brightened up. He walked up, "Ms. Luo, I've been looking for you a lot." But then, he seemed to have thought of something and quickly turned to the middle-aged man and said politely, "Second boss, this is Ms. Luo. Is she the one dash?" But young Master One stopped his words, because the second boss he was so respectful of was staring at the room in shock and horror. He could even feel the man's body shiver. He didn't know who the second boss could be so afraid of. This second boss was so powerful that even his father had to be respectful of him. Yet now his expression was saying he had seen someone truly terrifying. "You want to take away Ms. Luo?" Yi Mo suddenly glanced at young Master Wan and asked. Young Master Wan frowned and said, "What are you to dare speak to me like that?" Slap. As soon as he said that, the middle-aged man behind him slapped him. "Idiot. How dare you be disrespectful to Yi Qinbei? Do you want to die?" Young Master One was slapped away and spat out a few teeth. He laid on the ground, looking at the middle-aged man in horror. The middle-aged man then knelt before Yi Mo. "Yi Qinbei, Wanbei Yu Hongsheng didn't mean to offend Qianbei." This made everyone freeze. No one knew the middle-aged man, but they all knew young Master One. He was the #1 young master of Luotsong. Just then, everyone had seen how respectful young Master One was to this middle-aged man, even calling him second boss. Yet this man was in turn begging Luo's brother for mercy. Many people started guessing who Yi Mo was, Some even thought he might be a young master from Beijing. Gu Mingnan had wanted to look for trouble with Yimo, but his heart was cold now. He knew better than anyone who young Master One was. His Gu family was nothing to them. Yet the person he respected had to kneel down to Yimo. Gu Qingcheng was also dazed. She didn't expect her brother to have such a powerful student at his party. He didn't say anything, yet could scare someone into begging for mercy. She thought of the Gu family situation and that perhaps this person could help them. Brother Yi? Yang Yi looked at Yimo in confusion. Yimo looked at the middle-aged man and didn't say anything. He didn't remember ever seeing this man. With his memory, he wouldn't forget anyone he had seen once before. The scene became eerily silent. Although Gu Mingnan loved Luo Luo to the bone, he wasn't an idiot. He could tell his sister had been forced here, and the survival of their family seemed to be at stake. No matter how much he loved Luo Luo, it had to be put aside in the wake of his family. All right, friends, I'm sorry, but the gathering will end here today. I will treat everyone next time. Gu Mingnan immediately told the classmates to leave first. He looked at his sister and knew that he had done well. The classmates also understood that things weren't simple, and no one dared to stay. Yang Yi also got up, but Yimo pulled her and said, Yang Yi, I need to talk to you later. You can stay? Seeing this, Lu Shang also stayed. Soon, all the irrelevant people left. Yiqianbei, Wanbei managed to see Qianbei at the Broken Top Mountain. Yu Hongsheng felt that Yimo didn't know who he was and quickly explained. So that was it. No wonder this guy was this scared of him. When he exerted his dominance, even Xiang Mingwang didn't dare say much. Those who went to the Broken Top Mountain would of course know about the hidden sections. Oh, and you want to bring Luo Luo away? Yimo's tone was very cold. Yu Hongsheng shivered thinking, I wanted to do that before, but with you here, I don't dare no matter what. He didn't dare lie either, so he could only say, not me, it's Pingjiang Sec dash, okay. Yimo stopped his words, you may go. And this young master one is only wasting food by living on this earth. Yimo didn't care who was scheming for Luoyin. It was just a trivial matter. But he didn't like this young master one. Gu Qingqing saw Yu Hongsheng leave with his tail between his legs and wanted to say something. But Yimo said coldly to Gu Mingnan, you two can leave too. I have some business here. Gu Mingnan didn't dare say anything and quickly left with his sister. Gu Qingsheng was thinking that since Yimo was her brother's classmate, they would get a chance to get to know each other. That would be crucial to the development of their Gu family. After they all left, Yimo looked at Luoyin and asked, tell me about how Luoxin is now. Luoyin looked hesitantly at Lu Shang and Yang Yi. Yimo then also realized that it wasn't appropriate for them to know. So he asked, Yang Yi, do you know about Flowing Snake? Luoyin looked hesitantly at Lu Shang and Yang Yi. Yimo then also realized that it wasn't appropriate for them to know. So he asked, Yang Yi, do you know about Flowing Snake? Of course I do. It's the headquarters of Luo Yu. I was planning to go there for the holidays after I start working, Yang Yi said. Yimo smiled. You could actually go there now? Didn't you just graduate? If you want it, you could start working in Luo Yu. What? Work at Luo Yu? Brother Yi, do you think it's that easy to get in? I heard there was someone wanting to work there through the vice mayor and still got rejected, Yang Yi replied. Yimo said, Heir who is working at Luo Yu now. If you want to work there, just find him and you'll get accepted. If she said to Heir who that Yimo had told her to go Flowing Snake, he would definitely give her a good position. Really? Yang Yi still couldn't believe that such great fortune was descending upon her. But soon she realized that what Yimo had said was probably true. If even someone young Master One feared was that respectful to Yimo, he probably had a big origin. If you want to go, you can go with your boyfriend. Just say you come in my behalf, Yimo continued. Yang Yi said without hesitation, Of course I want to go. I just graduated and I already have such a good job, thank you, Brother Yi. Lu Shang didn't expect that he could also be able to go work at Flowing Snake. He even forgot to thank Yimo. Seeing the couple leave, Luoyin said, Yimo, Luo Yu is related to you, right? Yimo looked at her. You're very smart. Yimo's tone didn't sound very enthusiastic. He suspected that Luoyin had taken the Ni Luo Sutra. He couldn't like a woman with such calculations. Luoyin didn't know why Yimo was cold to her, but she still said, "The pill you gave Luoxian is very precious. You must be an expert in pill making, so it's no surprise that Luo Yu is related to you." Yimo didn't seem to hear that and said, "Tell me why you were in the mountain and how you were found. What's Luoxian's situation now? You don't seem to like me. If I remember correctly, we've only met once and we didn't even talk." Luoyin really didn't understand why Yimo didn't like her. Yimo sneered, "If I'm not wrong, weren't you interested in the Ni Luo Sutra?" That day outside the Yinghua Temple, Luo Fei screamed from outside. "You went out to check, and soon after that you came back injured. You probably injured yourself, right? And in reality you had taken the Ni Luo Sutra with you." Luoyin looked at Yimo furious. She was so angry she couldn't speak. How could he think she was someone who would harm her sisters? Yimo didn't seem to care about her anger and just said calmly, "This is what happened. Your second sister was hurt and you rushed out. At that time, you should have been on full alert. Also, you're at black level middle stage. Who could have hurt you in such a short time? Either that person knew your cultivation method very well, or it was someone countless times stronger than you. However, it's impossible that the person was much stronger than you. If there really had been an earth-level martial artist there, you wouldn't have gotten out alive. He could have just killed you all. So other than yourself, who would know you that well? Furthermore, all three of you were there, but you lost the Ni Luo Sutra before your eyes. Other than an earth-level peak person or halfway great heaven one who can do that, it could have only been one of you. I know Luo Xin wouldn't take it, and Luo Fei didn't take it either." Luoyin sneered, "It's as though you saw it with your own eyes. You really do know Luo Xin's sister well, but how do you know Luo Fei hasn't ta-dashed then?" Luoyin suddenly stopped. She had a strange expression, as though she had realized something. After a moment, she seemed extremely disappointed and sad. She looked down with despair. "Have you seen Luo Fei's sister?" Yimo nodded but didn't speak. Luoyin continued, "Yimo, if you see her again, tell her I'm sorry. I suspected of her taking the Ni Luo Sutra, but I now know that she didn't. I know this not because you saw her, but because of something else." After hearing this, Yimo got dubious. It seemed that Luoyin really hadn't taken it, but how did she know who had taken it just by listening to his part of the story? Was there really an Earth-level peak master? But why hadn't that person harmed the three of them? Luoyin seemed to be down, so after a while she looked up and said, "Yimo, regardless of whether you believe me, I didn't take the Ni Luo Sutra. I know who took it, but I can't tell you. You see, that day when Luo Xin brought it, I flipped through it. I usually use a perfume that I make myself. It's unique." Then, she calmed down and continued, "When I was about to go back with her, I smelt that aroma. Because it's so unique, I told her to go back first and I tried to chase it down along the way. I didn't find anyone, yet I still was knocked out on the mountain. You already know what happened next." Yimo sunk in thought. It actually wasn't Luoyin who took the Ni Luo Sutra. He had guessed wrong. Then, who took it? Whoever did it must be a lot stronger than the three of them, but chose not to kill them. This had to mean that the thief knew them personally. Thinking about this, Yimo suddenly asked, "Luoyin, did your sect only send out the three of you?" Luoyin sighed and looked at Yimo. "You guessed it. We had 4 spots. A martial elder was protecting us. She is at halfway great heaven. So Luoyin didn't continue, but Yimo knew what she meant. That martial elder didn't kill all of them, since they were from the same sect. Luoyin asked, "Is Luo Fei well now?" Yimo gave her a few normal recovery pills and said, "She's doing very well. You guessed right, Luo Yu is my company. If you want to see her, you can go to Flowing Snake. She's there now. These pills can help you recover your wounds a little. You should be able to use inner chi for self-protection with this." Then, Yimo gave a stack of money to Luoyin. "This will be your travel allowance." Luo Fei hit Luo Xian, and now she has no face to see Luo Xian. "You three can take care of your own issues yourselves. I'm still busy tonight. I won't be going with you to Flowing Snake." "Thank you," Luoyin said, but she pushed the money away and just took the pills. I don't know where to go now either. I'm scared of facing Luo Fei. Perhaps she doesn't know how to face me either. If I go back to the sect, I will get exposed. Yi Mo could understand her feelings now. He thought for a moment and said, "It's fine. You can find a place to stay for now. After I'm done with my business here, I'll take you back to Flowing Snake. If you don't want to go back to the hidden sects, you can stay at Flowing Snake." He booked a room at Yunshang Pearl and told Luoyin to recover there. It was night time when Yi Mo left the place. The otherworldly entertainment had gotten more boisterous. Although it was a base for Northern Sand, no one could tell. Most of those who came were wealthy young generations. Yi Mo scanned his spirit sense in, but strangely, he didn't find Liang Shirgua and the others. It was their base. Even if they had something to do, they wouldn't leave the place. Just when Yi Mo was getting confused, he sensed something with his spirit sense. It was Liang Shirgua who was apparently by himself. He was heading towards otherworldly entertainment. Yi Mo rejoiced. To him, Liang Shirgua looked the easiest to control as he had no cultivation, while that Peter and Chen Jue were quite powerful. Although Yi Mo could kill them, it would be hard to control them and get what he wanted from their mind. It was Liang Shirgua who was apparently by himself. He was heading towards otherworldly entertainment. Yi Mo rejoiced. To him, Liang Shirgua looked the easiest to control as he had no cultivation, while that Peter and Chen Jue were quite powerful. Although Yi Mo could kill them, it would be hard to control them and get what he wanted from their mind. Liang Shirgua seemed to have a lot on his mind and kept frowning. Yi Mo didn't touch him at first and waited until he went into a room by himself before finally jumping in after him. Yi Mo stayed invisible and knocked Liang Shirgua out before taking him out of Luo Tsang with him. In order to make Liang Shirgua think this was all a dream, Yi Mo didn't land anywhere. He covered his face with some black cloth before pointing at Liang Shirgua's forehead. Seeing Liang Shirgua's confused look, Yi Mo asked, "Introduce yourself and tell me why you came to Luotsang." Liang Shirgua answered without hesitation, "I'm Liang Shirgua, the person responsible for Northern Sand's Chinese base. I came here for the Extreme Energy Stone." What is an Extreme Energy Stone? It's the power source for super equipment. What is super equipment? Where do these energy stones come from? All equipment that can't be powered by energy from Earth is called super equipment, such as the space flower. The Extreme Energy Stone comes from the main designer of the space flower, Feng Ji. He is the source of 8 extreme energy stones. Yi Mo was wondering who this Feng Ji was. How could he design something that the whole world fought over? This person wasn't simple. Would he be another transmigrant from another civilization? Yi Mo continued asking, "Where is he now? What's the main purpose of the space flower?" Feng Ji fled Northern Sand half a year ago. The last time he appeared was in the Taklamakan Desert. Northern Sand is currently doing all they can to look for Feng Ji. If we can't bring him back, we are to terminate him on the spot. The space flower is a super war machine that combines marine with aerial warfare. It could easily annihilate an entire country or defend a region. I don't know the specifics of its capabilities, though, Liang Shirgua replied. Why did he run away? When Northern Sand found Feng Ji, they signed a contract with him. It was for him to design the space flower and afterwards, they would let him go. Feng Ji finished the design, but Northern Sand regretted their promise and kept him to design other things. Feng Ji continued to design many things, but when he ran, he took all his blueprints with him, including the space flower blueprint. So that was it. Yi Mo thought, had that picture with Luoying in it also been taken near that desert? If it was, why did Luoying go there? But no matter what, finding out that she might have been there, Yi Mo was so excited that he wanted to fly there immediately to see if she was still there. How many bases does Northern Sand have? Where is your base? Yi Mo asked. Northern Sand has 6 bases. I only know of the Asian base, which is in Vietnam's Byway Creek. I don't know anything else. Yi Mo estimated that he wouldn't be able to get much more out of him, so he knocked him out and brought him back to his room. Liang Shirgua woke up not too long after Yi Mo left and got up immediately. What had happened before was very clear in his mind. It was as though he had truly been in midair and told a black-clothed man everything he knew. Liang Shirgua was shook. If even one of Northern Sand's secrets were spilled, it would be his death. Yet he had spilled so much, and it was all extremely important information. Wait, he probably didn't, right? It had to have been a dream. How could he possibly have been floating in midair? Liang Shirgua let out a breath of relief, but that dream had been way too real. He had even felt the wind brush past him. Liang Shirgua patted his head and washed his face with cold water, trying to forget that nightmare. Even if it was just a dream, if the higher-ups of Northern Sand knew about it, he would be dead for sure. Although Yimo wanted to find Luoying immediately, he didn't go just yet. Firstly, because a few months had already passed since Luoying had last been there, so a few days later or earlier wouldn't make much of a difference. And secondly, because he still wanted to earn that $10 billion from Liang Shirgua. When Yimo came back to Yunshang Pearl, Luoying was already soundly asleep. Yimo didn't disturb her and just cultivated on the deck. The second morning, when Yimo got up, Luoying had already finished cleaning herself and was waiting for Yimo. Yimo scanned her with his spirit sense and knew that she had half recovered already and would be able to protect herself. I want to go to Flowing Snake to see Luo Fei, Luoying uttered with some hesitation. After one night of thinking, she knew that it wouldn't be appropriate to keep following Yimo like this, and Yimo still seemed to be wary of her anyway. Although she had only been with Yimo for a short while, Luoying understood why Luo Xian trusted him this much and why she had pleaded for her to not say bad things about Yimo. Yimo was indeed a good person. Luoying thought that Luo Xian would have just randomly lost her virginity to Yimo, but now it seemed that she had been thinking too much. He wasn't the same type of person as Qi Yulin. With Luo Yin's beauty and her being injured, Yimo still didn't look at her with any ulterior motives. Just as Yimo was unsure about how to keep Luoying busy, she chose to go to Flowing Snake. That was perfect for Yimo. Yimo called Ning Qingxue to tell Luo Fei to go to the Guilin airport to pick up Luoying. At the same time, Ning Qingxue told him that Zheng Zhengxia had arrived at Flowing Snake and was waiting for him. Hearing this, Yimo immediately thought of the spirit well. He probably came for that. If Zheng Zhengxia knew where the spirit well was, Yimo would honestly just want to kick Feng Wu out of the game. After sending Luoying away, Yimo decided to earn the 10 billion first and then go back. In the secret room over at Otherworldly Entertainment, Liang Shirgua, Peter, and Chen Jue were talking about something. Liang Shirgua's face didn't look too good. He was still suspicious of the dream he had had last night. It was just too real. A black-clothed man knocked on the door and said, "Dio Liang, someone called Yimo is here to see you." Peter and Chen Jue were dazed. Yimo had been here only yesterday. Why did he come again today? "Invite him in," Liang Shirgua said calmly. "Director Liang, do you know why he is here?" Chen Jue saw that Liang Shirgua seemed very confident and asked. Liang Shirgua smiled. "If I'm not wrong, it should be about the crystal." "How do you know?" Peter asked. "He seemed hesitant when I mentioned the crystal being worth 10 billion. So from that I guessed that he might actually have it on him," Liang Shirgua said contemptuously. "Mr. Liang, you're really amazing." Peter applauded. Chen Jue couldn't help but feel amazed at Liang Shirgua's meticulousness. He then said, 10 billion is no small amount even for us. Are we really going to give it to him? If we can confirm it's on him, we might have other ways of getting it. Liang Shirgua shook his head. "You are underestimating Yimo. As did I yesterday, but I won't anymore. He will still need to prove he has the power to take my 10 billion, though. If he doesn't, then tough luck." Chen Jue sighed. No wonder Liang Shirgua was still above him even when he didn't have any powers. "Mr. Yimo, I didn't expect us to meet again this soon. Please take a seat." As soon as Yimo arrived, Liang Shirgua got up with a smile. "Mr. Yimo, I didn't expect us to meet again this soon. Please take a seat." As soon as Yimo arrived, Liang Shirgua got up with a smile. Yimo sat down and didn't seem to notice the irony on Chen Jue's face. "Mr. Liang, I'm really sorry about yesterday. I have found that crystal indeed, but just like you said, that thing is of no use to me. If you can really pay 10 billion for it, I don't mind giving this crystal to you." Liang Shirgua got up excitedly and said, "Mr. Yi is really an honest man. I knew you were a good person indeed." I thought you would need some time before you can find it, but you found it this quickly. I've prepared the 10 billion already. It's in the card. Liang Shirgua immediately took out a gold card which had many diamonds embedded onto it. It must have cost a few million just to make this card. Yemo shook his head. This northern sand was really earning an uncountable amount of money. They were so extravagant. Yemo scanned the card and soon knew what was going on. This card was a bomb, a small bomb. So that was it. Yemo sneered. He knew that Liang Shirgua had picked up on his intentional look of hesitance and prepared this card for him. The moment he gave his extreme energy stone would be the moment he died. Although it was just a credit card bomb, Yemo wouldn't underestimate it. Who knew how powerful it was? Yemo took the card and seemed embarrassed. Mr. Liang, I haven't even given you the crystal yet. To be taking your card already, this is a little embarrassing. Liang Shirgua sneered in his heart. You sure took the card without hesitation. How come I don't see your embarrassment at all? But of course he wouldn't say that. He laughed and said, if I didn't trust Mr. Yi, I wouldn't be taking out the card. There's 10 billion in the card. Please check on the computer. Okay, in that case, sure. Yemo went to the computer and tried to log into the card. There was indeed 10 billion. Yemo smiled, seemingly not seeing Liang Shirgua's contemptuous look, and asked, Mr. Liang, what is the transaction password for this card? Liang Shirgua's face changed. He didn't expect Yemo to want to transfer immediately, but his face soon recovered. He said casually, you can keep this card, Mr. Yi. We might have future business interactions, at which point we'll send the money into this card too. Yemo said with a troubled look, that's not really suitable. He changed his words. Even if I take this card, I'll still need the transfer password. Liang Shirgua cursed and could only tell Yemo the password. Yemo transferred the 10 billion to his own account immediately. Then, Yemo gave the empty card to Liang Shirgua. Mr. Liang, I've transferred the money, but I don't dare take this card. It's too precious. Liang Shirgua cursed. This person was really shameless. He took the 10 billion US dollars, but was acting embarrassed about taking a card. He quickly pushed it back, though, and said, Mr. Yi, this is what you deserve. We are really grateful to you for getting the crystal. One card means nothing. Perhaps we can work together in the future. Yemo knew that Liang Shirgua wouldn't rest easy if he didn't take the card, so he took it. Seeing this, Liang Shirgua rejoiced. After you tell me where that crystal is and you leave this place, you can go die. After you die, we can still get the 10 billion back from your company. Then, Yemo took out a small bag and gave it to Liang Shirgua. Mr. Liang, see if this is your crystal. Liang Shirgua almost spat blood. He didn't expect the crystal to be in Yemo's pocket. He opened it as quick as he could, and what was inside was the extreme energy stone he had lost indeed. Not only Liang Shirgua's face was bad, but even Peter's and Chenjue's as well. This Yemo was slapping their face. This guy had used their precious property to earn 10 billion and had simply been keeping it in his pockets. The despicable thing was that he had even pretended to not know anything yesterday. Yemo didn't care about this. He smiled and said, Mr. Liang, if that's the crystal, then I'll be going. If you have any more business, be sure to come find me. I love doing business, haha. Okay, of course, of course. This crystal we have all thanks to you, Mr. Yi. Thank you. Liang Shirgua was so angry he was about to puke blood, but he still kept thanking Yemo. He had decided that as soon as Yemo stepped out of otherworldly entertainment, he would detonate the bomb. He wouldn't care how many other people died. When Yemo walked out of the room, he used a trick and put the card into a corner of the door without them noticing. If he didn't fear that the bomb would be too powerful and destroy the crystal, he would have left it in Liang Shirgua's pockets. Also, he didn't want Liang Shirgua to die just yet. If he did, then even if Yemo would be getting 10 billion out of it, he would be fully starting war with Northern Sand. He didn't have the power for that right now, so he could only annoy Liang Shirgua and company a bit. After the crystal was shipped away, Yemo would be following it. He was planning on taking the other ones too. Yemo got to the bar as quickly as he could and didn't walk out. He asked for a drink. Liang Shirgua stared at the camera with a deathly gaze and was furious, but he couldn't do anything. If he blew it now, it might blow Yemo up, but otherworldly entertainment would also be done for. Although the place was worth nothing compared to Yemo, he was still here too, and he wouldn't lose anything if he waited for a minute. So why not wait a bit? Yemo sneered. He didn't care about drinking, but was leaving a message for Liang Shirgua. He wrote a few lines on a piece of paper and put it in an envelope for a waiter. You have to give this letter to Mr. Liang. You don't need to give it to him now, though. He's in a meeting. After he finishes work, you can give it to him. Then, Yemo gave a few $100s to the waiter before leaving. He has left. Chen Jue saw Yemo leave and immediately got excited. He will soon be able to see how this cocky guy dies. Liang Shirgua took out a remote and sneered, Mr. Chun, I'll leave you and Peter to deal with Flowing Snake. Yemo being dead, those in Flowing Snake won't be able to escape. Luo Yu is a good money-making machine. We can keep it for ourselves. Liang Shirgua pressed down on the button. Rumble, there was a huge explosion as bricks and dust fell everywhere, making Liang Shirgua and the other two dumbfounded. The explosion was huge, sure, but something didn't seem right. It should be on the streets, but why then was he feeling such a huge shock and was his wall falling? A metal rod pierced Liang Shirgua's shoulder, making him cry out in pain. Not good. It's our building that exploded. Chunjue reacted first. He grabbed Liang Shirgua and jumped out of the window. How could that be? The explosion should be in the street. Why is it here? Liang Shirgua murmured. There was another rumble. A waiter charged into the bar and saw Liang Shirgua on Chunjue's back. He quickly passed the envelope. Dio Liang, a customer called Yemo left this for you. Liang Shirgua opened the letter, but the content made him spit out blood. He cursed, shameless. I've seen shameless people before, but never someone as shameless as this. Liang Shirgua threw the letter on the ground, and Chunjue picked it up. The letter could be said to be very polite. Liang Shirgua threw the letter on the ground, and Chunjue picked it up. The letter could be said to be very polite. Mr. Liang, ever since I found out that the crystal was your organization's, I wasn't able to sleep for the whole night. Even if there hadn't been a reward, I would have wanted to give the crystal back. Now that I already took your money, that's already embarrassing enough. How can I take such a precious card too? You're making me blush. Although I know Mr. Liang genuinely wants me to have the card, but I thought about it and decided that I truly can't take it. I left the card outside the door. Please check it. I am an honest man, so I shall not take something that does not belong to me. Mr. Liang also knows that I'm not the sort of person to leech on small benefits, right? If I took Mr. Liang's card, it would really go against who I am. I'm afraid Mr. Liang would still wish to give it to me, so that's why I left this letter downstairs. You must not be too kind, Mr. Liang. Chunjue looked at Liang Shirgua in confusion. Director Liang, you're saying Yemo is shameless because he knew that the card was a bomb and left it there? Liang Shirgua calmed down and frowned. Take me to the hospital first. After they got in the car, Liang Shirgua continued, he's not a god. He probably didn't know there was something wrong with the card. I'm saying that he's shameless because he took the 10 billion without a word. Yet now he's saying that it'd be ruining his good name to take this card, even saying that he had been planning to give the crystal back to us for free. Do you believe that *T? Just look at how fast he transferred the money away. This person is too shameless. Liang Shirgua couldn't help himself from cursing. Chunjue frowned and said, Director Liang, I feel this whole thing is strange. If Yemo really didn't know that this was a bomb, why would he give the card with the letter to the waiter? I also think Yemo is a very shameless person, so for someone like him, why wouldn't he take a card that's worth a few million? Liang Shirgua calmed down. In his fury, he had ignored such an obvious problem. Yeah, why did Yemo do that? But if Yemo knew that was a bomb, why not just put it closer to him? Liang Shirgua suddenly felt that he couldn't see through that Yemo anymore. Was this an accident? Liang Shirgua didn't believe it was. Mr. Chen and Peter, we shouldn't go to the hospital now, but to the airport instead. The crystal is on us. We need to send it away immediately. It's not safe with us. I only have some minor injuries, so some slight treatment will be fine. Liang Shirgua decisively made the car drive straight to the airport. Emo was following behind, but he wasn't planning on tracking those three. He was following the crystal, which he had marked with his spirit sense. He might have traded it away. He wasn't really going to give it to Northern Sand. To Emo, following the three was honestly a relaxing endeavor. They boarded a plane to Hong Kong already half an hour later. From this, one could see their organization's capability. The plane departed quickly, and Emo followed on his flying sword, complaining how slow the plane was. 2 hours later, the plane landed in Hong Kong International Airport. As soon as the three got off, there was a car ready to pick them up. Emo followed them to a rural gas station before finally stopping. Coming there, Emo realized that this had to be a Northern Sand meeting area. The office room upstairs looked very simple, but Emo could easily tell the people working there weren't that simple. 2 of them were yellow level, and most importantly, there was a lavish room underground with the entrance to it being very hidden. Emo worried that Chen Jue would be able to see through his invisibility. Even though he was at the Qi-gathering middle stage, Chen Jue was an Earth Peak level master. If he noticed his Qi waves, it wouldn't be hard to discover him despite his invisibility. At the moment, Chen Jue and Peter were standing at the door, and it would be impossible to go inside without passing the 2 of them. Just when Emo was feeling troubled, Chen Jue's phone rang. He turned around and carefully whispered something. Emo knew this was a chance. Chen Jue was distracted and Peter was a mutant, so even if he was stronger than Chen Jue, he wouldn't be able to sense his Qi waves. Emo managed to enter the underground room without being caught. 4 fully armored black-clothed men stood there, all near the yellow level. Emo was worried that there would be earth levels here, but there wasn't even a yellow level. It was pretty reasonable, though. After all, it wasn't easy to cultivate ancient martial arts. It would seem that those 4 black levels he killed last time must have had quite some status in Northern Sand. No wonder Liang Shirgua had decided not to let him go. "Director Liang, you're injured," a busty, beautiful woman asked. She saw the bandages on Liang Shirgua's shoulder and actually reproached him. Liang Shirgua waved his hand. "Sister Ling, now isn't the time to talk about that. I've brought the thing here, and I'll be giving it to you. It's torture to have it on me. Have a look." Then, Liang Shirgua showed the crystal to the woman. The woman didn't ask any further questions. She examined the crystal carefully and nodded. "It's right. This is real. Thank you, Director Liang. Elder Chu will be arriving shortly. I will ship it away with Elder Chu tonight. Please sign here." Liang Shirgua signed and rested easy. "Director Liang, you seem to have encountered some trouble. Did you get this from Emo?" she asked strangely. She had never seen Liang Shirgua with such a face before. Liang Shirgua nodded. "Yes, we lost a lot of men this time, which I have already reported. I'm waiting for notice on how to deal with that." Emo then. 2 more people came inside. It was an old man in his 60s and a man in his 30s. Elder Chu, Liang Shirgua, and the young woman greeted the old man as he came inside. Elder Chu nodded and said, "Xiao Liang has done very well this time. He finally got the crystal. Although 10 billion is important to us, it's nothing compared to the crystal." But while knowing that Emo could kill 27 gun masters and 4 black-level fighters in an instant and still acting so carelessly, making other mistakes, I can't deal with it. It must be reported. The woman looked at the old man in surprise. "Director Liang made other mistakes?" The old man nodded and said, after realizing that his first method was wrong, it was a good decision to openly discuss with Emo about the crystal, but he didn't even notice that Emo broke the 3 hidden cameras. Although he found out about it later on, he didn't take it seriously and wanted to use some low means to get rid of Emo, his second mistake. Then Elder Chu glanced coldly at Liang Shirgua and said, "Xiao Liang, do you think someone who can sense those hidden cameras in such a short time wouldn't be able to tell there's something up with the card? Looks like you're declining now. These last 2 years have been too successful for you. If you didn't get the crystal, or if Emo had realized the use of the crystal, you would have been dead 100 times over. Northern Sand only has 5 Earth-level tertiary stage masters, and we gave you one of them and also sent Peter. Yet you went and lost 4 black-level and 23 elite members." Liang Shirgua looked down and sweated, but didn't dare say a word. Elder Chu seemed to feel like he had said too much and eased his tone. but you at least got the crystal back, so you should be able to keep your life. As for Yemo, we should stop thinking about attacking him for now. At the moment, we probably don't have anyone who is a match for him in the organization. Yemo is that strong? No one in the organization is a match for him? The young woman blurted out with shock. The old man nodded seriously. Although we can't be certain, that should be the case. We can only see whether perhaps Mu Zhan might be a match for him. If even he can't beat him, our only other option would be to gang up on Yemo. Gang up on him? Will we attack him now, or should we attack his base first? That young woman asked. Gang up on him? Will we attack him now, or should we attack his base first? That young woman asked. Elder Chu shook his head. Now is not the time to take him out. Yemo gave us the crystal, meaning that he doesn't know its worth, and that he doesn't want to fight us now either. It's not the time to attack his base either. We've investigated Yemo very clearly, and he's a mad dog. According to our latest news, He Lu sect and Dian Song were almost annihilated due to him. The number one hidden sect, the Gourd Cave, also seems to have become silent. We suspect that too is related to Yemo. Although he most likely can't annihilate them just like that, they are probably scared of his crazy retribution. So, now is not the time to completely start war with him. We don't have the time and effort to waste on him. In due time, there will be someone to annihilate him. Yemo on the side really wanted to burn this Elder Chu, but he knew he couldn't touch Northern Sand yet. Northern Sand felt threatened by him a lot, but so did he by them. He didn't have only himself to think about. If he pissed off Northern Sand, how would he protect the people around him? Liang Shirgua, Chen Jue, and Peter will stay here now and come back to HQ with me later on. You will return immediately and keep track of Yemo and report back. Without any further notice, you must not do something like abducting his family again. The old man looked at Liang Shirgua with a serious face. Yes, Elder Chu. Liang Shirgua didn't dare object. Then, Elder Chu looked at the woman and said, "Let me check the stone. If it's the right one, package it and send it away with the other one." Yes, Elder Chu. The woman put the crystal on the table and also took out a gold case. Yemo noticed that this gold case was exactly the same as the one he had found. It seemed that he would be earning 2 crystals today. Elder Chu checked the crystal and nodded. He opened the case and put the crystal together with the other one, before covering it with a yellow cloth. At this time, Yemo used 2 ordinary stones to swap out the crystals with extremely fast speed. He was so fast that no one saw it with him being in invisibility mode. Yemo rejoiced that Chenjue didn't come in. If he were here, he might have noticed his actions. After taking the things, Yemo left immediately. As soon as he got to the entrance, he heard a yell in the underground room. Was it discovered this quickly? Yemo thought and scanned his spirit sense down. Indeed, the gold case was opened again, and everyone's face was pale. Chen Jue rushed past Yemo and came into the underground room as soon as he could. Good opportunity. Yemo dashed out of the gas station and got on top of his flying sword, quickly heading to Luotsong. In order for Liang Shirgua to not suspect him, he had to be there. What is it, Elder Chu? Chenjue asked. The crystal has been switched just now. Sister Ling's face was also pale. It was bright as day in there, and the gold case had remained on the table all the time. It could be said that everyone's eyes were on the case. Yet from one moment to the next, the crystals turned into 2 useless stones. From the opening to the closing of the case, only Elder Chu, only he had touched the case. But it's not like Elder Chu would have switched it. He would be taking it away anyway. And even if he was to do it, he wouldn't do it here. And even if he did, he wouldn't open the case a second time to check on it. Yet the eerie reality was that the 2 crystals had been taken from right under their eyes. No one could shoulder this responsibility, not even Elder Chu. Immediately locked down the underground room. Do not allow anyone to go in or out. Although Elder Chu's face was pale, he was still the first to react. The person who took it must still be in this underground room. As long as the entrance was sealed, they could find out for sure. Although Chen Jue didn't quite understand what was going on, He understood from Sisterling that the crystals seemed to have been changed. Peter was standing at the door and made sure that no one came in. No one seemed to have gone out either. Chinjue stopped there. When he came in, he seemed to have felt a subtle chi wave next to him, but he was moving so fast then that he wasn't sure now. I'll stay at the door over here. Elder Chu, please check inside. Chinjue thought about that encounter and knew that might have been the thief brushing past him. But he wouldn't say that. If he did, he would be greatly responsible. He wouldn't be that dumb. So, he didn't even enter the passage to the underground room and just stood at the door. People surrounded the place and investigated all over, yet half an hour later, there was still nothing found. Elder Chu suddenly thought of something. He looked at Liang Shigua and said, Liang Shigua, are you sure no one followed you from Luotsang to Hong Kong? Liang Shigua was shook. They had taken an impromptu plane. How could they be followed? He knew that Elder Chu was looking for a scapegoat, so he quickly said, definitely not. With Mr. Chen and Peter there wouldn't be anyone capable of following us. And coming to Hong Kong was an impromptu decision. I was in fact going to stay in the hospitable at first, but because I was afraid something would happen, I changed the plan. Liang Shigua had managed to casually drag Chinjue and Peter into it. Chinjue knew what Liang Shigua was intending, but still had to help him. Yes, Elder Chu, we were certain that no one was following us. The plane was also already full beforehand, and we used special means to get our 3 spots. No one could have known that we were coming to Hong Kong, and even if anyone did, they wouldn't be able to board the same plane as us. Despite all that, Chinjue was afraid that they really might have been followed, but he couldn't imagine what means their tracker could have used. He thought of the chi wave he noticed before, but didn't dare say anything about it. Elder Chu sneered. He knew that if he didn't find the crystal, he would be held responsible. If there was some chance, he would try to blame it on Liang Shigua, but the crystal had disappeared after he touched it. Liang Shigua, if that person followed you, would you know? Check Luotsang right now. See if Yimo is there. If not, then it was definitely him. I said it would be suicide to underestimate him. Are you still underestimating him even now? Elder Chu's voice went cold. Liang Shigua's heart went cold too. He knew that this old thing was trying to use him as a scapegoat. Yimo had come to Luotsang because he had called him there. This long after the meeting, why would he still be there? Liang Shigua was sure that if he called his men in Luotsang and they didn't find Yimo within 10 minutes, he would be turned into the scapegoat for sure. But if he didn't call, he would become the scapegoat just the same. When Liang Shigua called, the old man cursed and wanted to kill Liang Shigua immediately. If it weren't for Liang Shigua wanting to bring the crystal back there right then, he wouldn't even have been involved in this mess. Sister Ling's face was pale too, but to her, as long as she was fine, she would be thanking God. Chinjue also looked at Liang Shigua with sympathy. Liang Shigua's face was pale as he called. Everyone looked at Liang Shigua's phone anxiously. To the people in the room, it was better to have a scapegoat than for all of them to die. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.